I needed every fucking last second of that. I was just trying to push a little update on the old site. I thought I would like try to do my homework and be ready for this one. I mean, not really. Just collecting a couple things. I got the iPad set up because I think I got to do some desktop streaming for this one. If I can get Chrome to or Sketch to play along, but shit, 3 days in a row. Got the audio working. Just had to reset. Then the computer didn't restart. I don't know what that's about. Yeah, I tried to be kind of. It's been a minute since I looked through all this design process stuff, but yeah. So I think the main plan for this one is just to kind of talk about. Oh, this fucking rain's way too loud again. Ari site. So we just launched that yesterday? Sunday? I don't know. I'll put the link in the chat. I've learned that I'm apparently the only one who can put links in the chat. So if you haven't seen it, I'd give it a poke around. Let me do a little Chrome browsing. Apparently that's really narrow. Don't need my bookmarks. It's also an award, so if you haven't voted, I don't know what the voting status is. I have no idea how it works. Ari submitted this one. Shout out to fucking Ari, man. He's the madman who made this thing fucking work. He may be here, I don't know. He's talking about it. And so I'm gonna just keep things purely to design. This was something I had gotten asked if I was gonna do. So here we are. And I'm only gonna speak on the design portion of it. I can talk about the process of trying to like design for something like this. But yeah, I don't want to overstep my bounds and talk about something I don't really know, which WebGL instantly. Like I know nothing about WebGL. I know how to I know how to ask for all the wrong things with Ari. I mean, if you again know my previous site, like performance has never been a top thing or a top priority. Words. Yeah, I mean, priority on this one was absolutely like performance. This is a showcase of his abilities as a developer, which I think is pretty immediately apparent. I mean, with how smooth this thing is, it doesn't. I don't know how to get my FPS up anymore, but this thing doesn't drop anything. Like, I don't know if it goes below 60 FPS. Like, he showed me the Lighthouse score on this, and it was, I think, 100 across the board, which I think I'm at like 33% in one of those categories. That was like the mobile assessment that awards gave me, but yeah, it's just madness. And so I'm really kind of trying to think about where to start with this. And if you don't know, you can navigate this entirely by keyboard, which is what I'm doing right now. And you can go like try and like catch it sleeping, and you're just not. I don't know how he does it. like that's still like I've been involved in this project. I mean, design this, and how we get to work this way is just beyond me. So, yeah, I mean, if there's any questions off the jump, I think there's a couple of people here. I tried to give some notice on this. I still haven't posted the schedule when I'm going live. I need to create like a template, something I can just like systemize and keep posting. But yeah, I'll go through kind of like ideation, inspiration, some of like the steps through the way of like where we went, where we tested, some of the things we tried, some of the things that didn't work, and yeah, but nothing technical. So I think that will be for another day. Um, Maybe Ari will want to pop in and talk to that. We'll see. Because that is his world, not mine. Um, I don't think there's anything really I left out in terms of like the actual experience. So again, check the link if you want, and then might as well dive in on um, inspiration. And seriously, like the second I start, like kids start skating. Fuck. Um, it is trash day, so there might be trash trucks coming through. I don't know. Guest appearances. Um, yeah, so kind of like following Ari's work for a while, knowing what his aesthetic is. He works a lot with like uh, Mr. Ben Mingo and a couple other people, so it's very clean, kind of minimal, but pushes it in subtle ways. So that was definitely kind of the wheelhouse I was going for. I can't remember how we settled. I think he had the idea for Timmons, the font. I had done some initial explorations because we kind of initially talked about doing a site together. I think like 6 months beforehand. Um, he had a wild idea for a portfolio, which I don't know if he is going to want to do after doing this. Um, but yeah. So I had like an entirely different direction from what I just pulled inspiration from that, kind of started doing some loose ideation, and then he came back with like the Timmons, and that kind of sets a different vibe. I mean, we got into like the Matt Wiley sort of world. I mean, he's the designer of it. If you don't know his work, definitely get to know it. I don't know what his exact. He's high at Pentagram, I think. I can't remember. So I don't even know. I forget, but he's just a fucking amazing designer, and he designed this font um, for charity. It was like I think it was for. Wow. So I started saying something and then I typed it. No, not Wiley. Matt Wiley. Yeah. This guy is a fucking boss. Like, I'll put that in the chat too. People want to check it out. So I think I'm gonna start doing this more. Is just like peppering the chat with links. So he's the one who created the font, and to say that I didn't look at his type specs and like his explorations of what he did here, I would be lying. I think how he designs it, he is gonna know the best ways of exploring. Like when you design a font, like you just get into every fucking use case and like how it looks the best. And this guy's eye is like miles ahead of mine. So I think how he did it is he has like a broader type spec somewhere. I can't remember where it is. He came out with a second version. I don't know if he changed the spec he came out with. Remember there being more. No. I don't know. So that was kind of like part of the inspiration of how we used it. And one of the other big ones was looking at DIA and how they were doing a lot of their kinetic typography. That was something like I've always wanted to do, type that was kind of moving, and it kind of had a life of its own. How that works within like an interactive space, like I think the way that like DIA does it all the time, it's a lot of like kiosk, it's a lot of like passive animations, but you don't see a lot of that in and interfaces and how that can be used and how that, I think how that resolves into something usable. So that's kind of where like this sort of animating out type came from. There were a lot of other ideas on how we could potentially make this, we could push it a little bit more, but ultimately we ran into some development issues. I want to see if I can find, I was trying to look through all the different, explorations I did for this one. Because there's a lot. There's a couple, like some of the about page explorations get kind of wild. So I'm still showing Chrome. I guess I can jump into Sketch. So this is like the first phase. So like pulling inspiration in and then starting to just kind of consolidate. And like specific to this, like I didn't have a really clear vision of like I saw how Matt Wiley was using his font, and I think Ari's directive was kind of just like, let's do something with like big type. Like, I'm a designer, you don't have to fucking tell me twice. Like, let's go as big as we can. So you'll see like some of the references, not so much here. I think this was kind of early on as we're going back and forth, but like some of these moments, like how you create rhythm with type, is always something that has always interested me a lot, like as it pertains to I mean a lot with like audio and like anything that's like musically based. And I think that's what's so interesting about, like, there's a talk that DIA, like Mitch, I don't know if it's DIA or if it's DIA, like someone feel free to correct me, I don't fucking know these things. But he was talking about how jazz music is what influences a lot of like the motion and creates like different rhythm, but there's improvisation. Really fucking fascinating to hear the system and like how he comes up with what they're doing. And maybe it'd be good for me to come up with or actually show some of what they're doing. Because for me, this was kind of like a big inspiration in terms of like how that type ended up there, but how it ended up in its current state is kind of different. So I think it's like a Squarespace work. Let me see if I can find the right one. It might have been in their Adidas work. I can't remember. I'll show a screen. You can get a sense of like a lot of the stuff that they do. This is just like the applications of the brand. This is their creative department. Where was it? I mean, you can see like a lot of the kinetic typography they're doing here, but I think more specifically, I'm trying to find I think it was their Adidas project. I haven't seen this. Looks like they did it for Head Media Design. I mean, it's kind of their thing is kinetic type. I think they've built a lot of tools around how to animate it, and they do such a good fucking job with it. Let me see. Is it Adidas London? I think it was Adidas London. I can't remember which application of it though. This is where I should have done more kind of prep. I mean, it's kind of there. I can't remember where it is. I have it somewhere in the, like, so we chat in Discord and a non-paid one, because I need to pay for that. But I don't know if I can find all the attachments we sent back and forth. I think, so this is their tool that they use for their kinetic typography, which is just fucking wild, because it creates it in 3D space, and then you can animate it, different canvases. Like, this would be pretty sweet to play around with. swear I'm gonna find what I'm looking for. Yeah. Dia, that, yeah, them. Arjun, what's going on, man? Thanks for coming through again. I know, like 3 days in a row, it's kind of weird. I know all the times are random. I don't know if that's a bad thing or not. I don't know if midday. So apparently I'm never going to find it. But they have something where it's just like kinetic type that just kind of like the tracking basically animates. It's kind of like one of the frames that are being shown up in this top left section. It's in the beginning, of course, and I can't. I don't know. No, that's the one I just went into. I'm so smart. It's incredible. Okay, but I think you get the idea. I'm just gonna stop. There's so much shit you can look at there. But that was definitely an inspiration. I think seeing some of this other stuff, just sparking ideas of what we could do. And like knowing what the rough project, like the rough site framework is going to be, like it's all basically projects. So it's going to be just this kind of continuous carousel. So knowing there has to be a system around it, something that can scale. Because Ari works on like half of the internet, I feel like. Dude's always just fucking jamming. So it's got to be able to scale. I mean, he has, I don't know what the count is right now, like 28 projects right now. So whatever we came up with had to be able, like, scalable. So let's see if I can go sketch. And this might not be linear, so bear with me a little bit. I'm kind of going back through this myself a little bit. So those were the initial thoughts, and then it was just kind of like, my process from there is really just like go wide. Playing around with the font, knowing when to go like large type, condensed, and then just picking up on different themes of things that start working. Like for me, and why I like Sketch so much, and I guess it's the same as Figma. Apparently you can do it in Photoshop. I've never used artboards in Photoshop. I grew up with CS6. I held on to CS6 until like 2018 because I'm that fucking old man, I guess. But yeah, I just never got into artboards. And then when Sketch came around and the idea of creating like type styles, creating all these different like systems, and being able to multiply artboards very quickly, that sort of, I don't know, it sparked like a lot of creativity. Like, because I used to have like, I mean, I still have it. I think there's like, as of like 3 or 4 years ago, I would just do Photoshop, like for style boards. I would just do quick iterations, and there would be probably 20 in a single file, and it was like a 4 gig PSD just of like a 1920 by 1100, 1200, whatever it was. Just because it would just be like, all right, that kind of works. Like, how do I spin off of that? I like something that's coming out of that. How do I spin out of that? So I can't remember where I started on this, but I can kind of go through each of these sections. If anyone wants, or if anyone has any specific questions, definitely let me know. Here, just kind of getting the font set and the project titles, kind of understanding what I'm working with in terms of variability of length. So how much do I need to account for? Ari's kind of like a dream sort of client where development is his priority, but when it came to like design, and like this is a portfolio at the end of the day. Like that's something like, it's funny watching people like analyze it on Twitter and talk about like, I don't know, having beef with certain things. Oh, that could just go. That was an old font. I think it was, I can't remember what that one was. But like, that's like, it doesn't have to convert. It doesn't have to be like perfectly obvious of like what everything is. Like a little bit of discovery is not a bad thing, if you ask me. Um, and like if people have constructive feedback on like where the end product ended up, I'm happy to talk about it. Um, Subjective sort of pissing matches, like fucking spare me. I don't really care. Um, but yeah, not to get like it's salty. I like it's funny that people like to spend energy on like shit talking things, and that's fine. I don't really care. I like the response has been so overwhelmingly positive. It's just like the couple small ones that like they just stand out, but it's like I can't remember who it was, but like in order to train a dog out of behavior, you just don't react. Like people just do things for a positive or negative reaction, and it spurs something from them. So if you give them no reaction, like they're not going to do anything. So I'll just go through some of these early concepts. So ideas of like color blocking came in early. A lot of this like type layout was never really like I never thought it was right. Like I wouldn't put availability above the logo. It's just like there's a couple data points I want to account for. Um, let's just put them there. I know the hierarchy's wrong. I can always refine that. It's more like what's the framework for projects. And so coming off of this list here, it was like, well, fuck it. Like let's just go really big. And one thing I latched onto pretty early was the idea of masking images to the text. Because it is so condensed and dense, you can typically see a lot of the image coming through. And for like with the folder of assets that I have, like I think it's Waka or whatever, Waka whatever it is, like it was just like a chair, and it's like, all right, that's like the litmus test for is there enough information, can I convey enough information where that image is at least like useful in a worst case scenario. So like can you tell it's a chair, like the profile of a very very minimal chair. So it was kind of a nice thing to have that image in there, and I applied it to all of them. In terms of like different length, looking at how images scale. Because that's the other thing, like we can do a lot of custom stuff, but at the end of the day, like I don't want to make RE like custom build every single component because I can't develop a system around it. That's not how this kind of shit works, or it should work. So that's always kind of in the back of my mind, and like that's easy because I come from the e-commerce world, and that's where I've had to like unwind that part almost and let go of like everything needs to make perfect sense, and the interaction or like everything needs to be systemized to a point where it's like it's one image, it fits every condition, and you don't have to do any sort of customization to make it work. Like it scales. And people love to like kind of wax poetic about design systems, but like that's how shit gets made. I hate to say it, like if you don't have a system around it or like a base level of logic around like how you're applying different styles and different things, like it's never going to get made. I'm fighting that on my own site because I'm doing a lot of like one-off type things. And if you look at my like the class styles for all my type, it's just all over, and it's made 10x the work, mostly because I just a shitty developer and I'm changing things all the time. Let's see. The life portfolio was really dope as expected. What are your thoughts on the comments regarding the UX, i.e. how it feels like it was made more for keyboard than mouse? I mean, we can talk about that. Where's my Windows? Okay. Yeah, I think it is interesting that people have gripes with the UX of it. I think there's a lot of things that have changed throughout the process in terms of like how things were designed, how we had to make adjustments for performance. Because at the end of the day, like performance is key. Like that's like this is a developer's portfolio, so things that I want to do don't always take precedence or priority in how things work. Um, I don't know what the biggest gripe was. I guess like the keyboard function. So one thing we went back and forth on was sort of the role that this sort of role, like the line navigation had in this site. I think we just went back and forth on it in terms of like where it was. The initial thought for me was that this was a transitional moment. Um, it was, and so I think the line navigation initially came from Ari as like this is a good way for us to like navigate between the projects. I think that came after I did a lot of the explorations I was just showing. So it's like I had all these ideas and he had some developmental ideas about what he wanted to do. And I think ultimately, like, I'll go back through some of the explorations I had, but it was kind of, um, I think it was a really good idea. Like, that's the beauty of working with Ari is that he's super creative and he has a good understanding of like what works and what doesn't. And he had this idea for navigating projects this way. Um, and so it was more around like how do we build into that. Um, and yeah, I mean it's it's kind of interesting. Like I think we had slightly different visions on how this worked, and like what role this had in the overall experience. Like I was saying, like I initially designed mine to be like a transitional moment. I think he always saw this as like the primary way of navigating it, and I don't really have a problem with that. It's funny to me that people do. Um, it's more of like the exploratory type thing, um, where like maybe it's not totally clear. Like this is a portfolio. It's not gonna be like it shouldn't be like so cut and dry. Like I think there's so much stuff that's cut and dry out there. It's like why make something that's like that? So we kind of opted to switch things up a little bit. And ultimately, like if my initial thought was that like so if you click and drag, you let go and it would pop you right back in here. Um, I don't think that's that different from what's here. And like I actually don't know the other beefs that people have. Like I think they talked about like clicking in isn't obvious enough. Okay. Um, I mean maybe we can make like a map here that clicks you in as well, but I mean we're really pulling out this detail. So I did what I could to pull out this explore detail to be a little bit more apparent. We talked about doing some like line animations and as like subtle cues, but again, like really not going crazy with it. Um, I think people complained about the fonts and like if like I don't care. Like yes, it's small, but like the main point of this project is not to be reading a lot. Like if you're looking at Ari as a developer, you're not really looking at like what's being said. My intent was to have the information available and it is legible, like to most people. Unless I don't know, you have some weird browser settings, like you've got really bad eyes. Like I'm sorry, but I don't think that needs to be like 18-point font. Like if you start looking at this in terms of like an overall hierarchy, um, that sort of metadata is really low. And Ari didn't even, I don't even know if he wanted to have that. That was kind of my grounding element to provide like additional context because I don't think we ever planned on having excessive details once you get into the project. Um, and I know there was some comments about free scrolling within the project. Um, we had gone back and forth on this actually. I don't know if I have the videos of it. We looked at a lot of different options. I think Ari was super particular about how we were going to go about this. We looked at, he spent a lot of time looking at some different explorations around what we could do to retain free scroll. I think he posted on Twitter one of the, let's see if I can pull that up. let's see. Sorry, I have to dig it up. No. So this was, I think, free scroll at one point. I don't know if that was this one. But I like totally agree with Ari's sentiment. Like a folio is a place where you have fun, break the rules a bit, and try and go in other directions than the ones that are well established. So that's like if people want to start systemizing portfolios and like, oh, it's not super straightforward. Like, sure, things could be done differently, but I'd argue they don't have to be. I don't know if that's a satisfying answer, but like that's kind of like I don't want to use the word, but it's just kind of a trump card of like it's a portfolio, it's fun, it doesn't have to make total sense. Like what we settled on with this, I'm very happy with because we ultimately wanted control of this layout, how it overlaps things. With the free scroll, you ended up with kind of some awkward resolves in terms of like where things ended up, and we tried to find a way to resolve like any sort of like in between states. And what we came up with wasn't bad, but there would be like hitches in how it would happen. There would be like edge cases that would just like to Ari's standard just weren't acceptable, and I'm got his back on all that. Like we tried to determine based on your scroll direction, like that's the one. It would basically glide to the next one. It wasn't like a snapping sort of thing. Like it was calculating which direction you were going, and then it would calculate scroll speed, I believe. And this is again, I'm getting into the development side, which I don't think I should on Ari's behalf. But like these are some of the things we looked at. It was like, okay, how do we like keep the smooth scrolling? But it ended up like if someone scrolled to a certain height slowly, the snapping was then accelerating. It wasn't like it had to speed it back up and slow it back down in order to get to this resolve state. And I think the thinking for us was like, we want this information persistent. We want a clean resolve layout where like the overlap makes sense. So yeah, it's give and take, and there were some other solves we looked at, performance sort of things came into it. But again, I'm not the person to to dive into the details on that. Am I missing any of the other UX comments on it? I mean, I'd love to hear like opposite opinions on like why something doesn't work in someone's eyes. Like nothing's ever perfect. Like I was coming up with fixes. Like I sent Ari a video the night before about some like broad strokes fixes, and he just laughed. And it was like we've done so much noodling. We looked at so many little things in between that like we could just do this forever. And we've got like this other project that we're jumping on now. Knowing that was on the horizon, and it was like we're getting to a point where we're just churning, and like we second guess things. Like you look at things long enough. We looked at this for a while, and like we just didn't know what we're looking at. It's the same thing that happened to my side. It was like, is this good? Like I think Ari didn't like it for like a week or two, and then he came back and he was like excited about it again. So yeah, I like the fact that it navigates well on keyboard. I think that's like a different experience. I don't know. I think it's fun just to kind of like, I don't know, pan around. This is just so smooth, like the stuff that he does. It's crazy. Caught up here. Yuya. Been a minute, my man. Hope you're doing good. Yep. Yeah, I heard you made a move. Congrats, man. Victor, it's awesome that you're doing these sessions. Well, glad you like it, man. it's fun. I mean, Um, I want to like just give back and like go through whatever. I think it's not something a lot of people do in our industry of just like pulling it back and talking about the process. I think some people do, but like in a way that can be a dialogue. Like people do case studies afterwards, and it's just kind of this really manicured or not manicured. Maybe that is the right word. Very refined, polished, sort of like everything's perfect sort of thing. But this was like a fucking awesome project. But it's like there's always compromises, and there's so many things like some of the kinetic typography was going to live around here, but there's limitations in terms of like how WebGL can render moving text, and ultimately like laddering back up to like we need to be performant, and so it was like yeah, it's gone. Doesn't work to the standards that we need to hit, and so we had to pare things back. Um, Can that's true. Reports should be expressive. Thanks for the insight. Yeah, of course, man. Um, it's kind of funny because mine is so fucking boring and kind of pedestrian compared to something like this. For me to say, look, like portfolios need to be, not need to be, but should be expressive because mine's. I mean, there's moments, but it's largely very like gridded and kind of predictable. Um, but yeah, like with the Ari's ability, like I don't know WebGL, I don't know JavaScript. Um, so yeah, his abilities kind of opens up a whole different world. Why no mobile? I'm very curious. 60% are mobile users. Why this decision? Um, I just don't know. That's a question for Ari. Um, he was pretty explicit about not wanting to do mobile, and he must know his target audience really well in terms of like how he's going to get work. I think there is a large percentage that come from mobile, but again, like it's looking at how a website functions within the broader ecosystem and where he knows his traffic's coming from. And if you know Ari, he's like he like runs Dribble, FWA, and awards. This is my opinion. I don't think he would ever say this, but um, and so maybe he knows that like people are finding him through the desktop experience. And I guess you could browse that sort of stuff on mobile, but um, it's just kind of keeping in mind where these people are coming from and um, really being smart with his time. And like it's like a cost benefit thing. Like, what's the return going to be on mobile? Um, I don't think he thought it was there. He was very explicit about like we're not doing mobile. Um, actually, never. If you do emulation keyboard mobile, he did. it, it's there somewhere apparently. Like it kind of holds up. Some of the lines are gone. Um, it's kind of there. I don't know. It's something you could just turn on, but um, yeah, none of the. I don't know if I bet you. Yeah, if I refresh, it's gonna be gone. Yeah, like it scales, and like we tested it down to like pretty narrow widths, but we never did mobile. It was just, and I don't know where he sets if he does device sniffing for mobile or if it's probably width. I think that's what everyone does. Um, yeah, here you go. I've never seen this till now. But it just shows like how systematically he thinks. Like it scales from such like we tested it. I mean, I have a um, XDR display and like stretch this thing out. It was like, all right, we need to think about how things pin to the side. Like if someone decides to go this crazy with it, um, like that's shit he thinks about. Like, and looking at his code also, it's wild. Like it's so efficient. Like his CSS is like, it's like the hero section for my homepage. It's it's crazy. Um, But yeah, so that was the thinking for mobile. Um, I think it'll be fun. Like I think at this point he's probably tapped out on this one. I think like the amount of shit that he did to get this like 60 FPS doesn't happen on accident. And the way he got the navigation to work, all the little details. Like if you go in here and you look at like the top navigation and how the lines are actually condensed rectangles, and how it like animates in, like just all the details. And I know I did say I wasn't going to talk development, but he duplicated this navigation for every single colorway. So yeah, that man works. It's crazy. I'd like to hear about the journey and decisions to the spacing between the letters and project titles. Yeah, that's. So I don't know if you heard like the initial part about the dia kind of type reference. That was something I wanted to kind of keep throughout. Like I thought the characters at this size through the drag could just like really just move through this section, and it could be like this. I want to see if I can still find it. Like it could be something that lives permanently on top of like everything. Like the text is just in the way the images are like omnipresent throughout that sort of browsing experience. The type would be too. Um, but it was a performance thing. I guess the way that something. Oh, excuse me. Something with how like text or WebGL renders text. I don't know. Again, that's a development thing Ari would have to speak to. Um, but let's see if I can find. Yeah, so I can find. Let's see if I pull up. I'm gonna go to one of my other spaces here. Bear with me for a second. It's an OBS sketch 1.1. So this is kind of some of the early ish, like you could, like we're still like figuring out how we use this sort of um, like knowing that the direction was this sort of animation with these like slivers. Like how do we apply it? Do we have different scaling of it? Um, remember what else? This was like the resolve state. It was like some of the stuff just started feeling like really predictable, if you ask me. Um, like you kind of see this stuff, and it's like, all right, your traditional grabber. I don't quite have a library of this stuff, but it's like if I'm gonna do a slider, like this is more or less representational of it. I thought I heard the trash truck. Shut this shit down. Um, but it's like, all right, if I'm just trying to like get ideas across, like, okay, there's a grabber, this is how you do it, there's an indicator, whatever, it's using the font, the style, whatever. There's faded out, there's hierarchy, so it's just like kind of quick sketches. And then began playing with like different frameworks, but again, this started feeling very predictable. I think there's a lot of people who have like this kind of corner pin stuff, which we do, but it's not really like work is kind of like a inherent thing. Um, let me see. Sorry, I'm just making sure the window's showing up properly. I haven't done a lot of like sketch broadcasting of like different windows and different spaces. Um, so we were kicking around ideas, and I think I initially sent him this. I think it might have been this one. And like it's schizophrenic. It's like there's all sorts of different languages going on. There's different ideas of navigation. There's no real clear thought of like UX at this point. There's a tenuous grasp of like projects going horizontal, images within being vertical. But I think I sent him this one, and he just was like, he loved the spacing of the type. And for me, I always saw this as like a transitional moment. It, like, I didn't really have a great solution of what it would be, but my idea was like, let's say you mouse pan around, and it just sort of like pushes the type around, so it's never really settled. Um, and whether like the type moves at different percentages based on mouse position. So, and whether or not that would have ultimately worked, I don't really know. Because the idea was like this was going to stick around, and it was. I want to find like the transitional idea. He shut down very quickly. Yeah, but basically, like, it was me sending this over as a transitional moment, and it became like basically the cornerstone of everything, unintentionally on my part, um, which I think was kind of interesting. Like looking back at it, of like that's how we made that decision, and it was very collaborative in terms of how we did it. And once I started thinking about it as like a framework, I was able to kind of refine it, see how it could scale, and that's kind of how we ended up closer to where we are now. But yeah, I think I actually had it backwards in this. I don't remember the thinking behind this. These are different testing of like when does it go over the image, when does it go under the image, when is it expanded, when is it like condensed. These are all things like we went back and forth about what should happen. Ultimately landing on it, starting tracked out, and then kind of pulling in. There were still other ideas, like so we were kind of feeling it out. So whether we do some of this like image offset masking and just again feels kind of pedestrian. I don't know, and whether this would actually work. And this is using an old, what font is this? This is Label. Getting symbols already. Label Grotesque. So I was using this, I don't know why, but I didn't think of my font as something I was going to use outside of my own font, but it kind of struck me 3/4 of the way through. It's like, this is a free font, we don't have to pay for fucking licensing. Like, Ari's already paying for the licensing on Timmons. Like, and arguably, like, my font's pretty close. It has its problems, for sure. And fucking shout out to Ari for not like balking at the fact that like my font, some characters are a little inconsistent. I mean, the full journey, I do want to get through this, so I'll come back to that. I think I'll go through like different points, but like this is how the tracked type started. It was just kind of me having an idea, Ari like seeing greater potential in it, how it could be a cornerstone, and then just pivoting to that. I think I'll start off a bit by the way scroll isn't used in a couple places at the double click into a project. And the double click into a project with the Explorer. With that said, though, it's still a really dope project. And to be honest, do whatever the fuck you want with your folio. It's yours. I mean, I agree. With the kind of teach their own bit. And like, I also do hear you on like the scroll into it. So ultimately why I don't think we have the scroll, and I don't think Ari's here to check me on this. Maybe if we do another stream, or if he jumps on a stream at some point, we can kind of have a broader conversation about this. But my impression is that, so he wants the site to be fast. Like you reload it, like it's loading all these images for this carousel, like they're all loaded. And this is 28 images at reasonably large size, loaded quickly. If we then have a scroll in, like a downward scroll in, my understanding is that we would have to largely preload those up front as well. Or the way we would have to do it is like we would have to lock the experience for people to, like if you preload images in WebGL, we actually just had this conversation today about a different project. It locks things up. So there's no good way about it. So if you just jump into a project, like it's gotta load that. And so instead of hitting you with the preloader here, we opted for a smoother experience where there's no interaction. Like during this transition, you can't do anything. It is loading the images for that. So again, one of those like development decisions that has broader implications. I think I'm pretty sure Ari would agree that like a scroll into it would make a lot of sense. Like the horizontal panning um, makes sense, but it's a lot of these realities of like being very efficient, where a lot of stuff is happening behind the scenes that um, most people just aren't accounting for, and that's my best understanding. So take that for what it is. That I think that's more of a development question. But we didn't think it was that big of a deal, to be entirely honest. Like this is one of the more prominent CTAs. Like it's kind of traditional. Like if you're expecting to be a scroll down, wouldn't you look at the bottom for some sort of CTA? Um, that would be my argument. Um, and I think we kind of ran out of time of doing like the animated scroll indicator, so we could do another like subtle animation to drive attention to it. Um, so it's not the most prominent thing, but it's um, it's somewhat recognizable. And then once you kind of get used to it, it's not hard to know where to look and how to navigate it. Um, and I don't know if that's like a lazy design sort of thing where like I think everyone gets carried away of designing to like the lowest denominator, which I think is a very good thing. Like if you're doing e-commerce and all these sort of like functional based things where conversion's super important, like predicating design decisions on exploration or a savvy user is a dangerous thing. Like you're gonna fail. Like give the site to your mom's or dad and like see how they do with it, and that's your litmus test of like what you need to design for. And typically, like that would rule something out like this out altogether. I don't think I've sent the site to my mom, to be entirely honest, because I don't know what she's gonna do with it. Like at the same time, my mom's not looking for a WebGL developer to start working on her knitting site. I don't know what the fuck she's doing. So it's again kind of knowing your target audience and like, okay, we can expect just a little bit extra. It's maybe not like the super obvious, but it's just that kind of fine balance of everything. And you get into like a like what's the lesser of two evils sort of thing, which I don't know. I think like with all the limitations we had, I think we came out pretty well. And again, like someone could argue like they wouldn't mind a preloader if it meant you could scroll into it. Yeah, probably. But again, like we're gonna err on the side of performance. So yours is great as well. um, yeah, it's getting there. I don't know if, yeah, I think you were on here last night. I was working on it. I was trying to get the list view working, and it went from 20 minutes to 3 hours to do a very simple thing. So, very kind. I appreciate it. I personally have issues making things work flawlessly on the iPad. Would ditch some features completely just because of one device. Love your site, by the way. Well, thank you, man. I'm not sure I understand the comment, though. I personally have issues with things working flawlessly on an iPad. Um, I think iPad in general is kind of like a tricky sort of use case because it's typically large enough um, to do a lot of desktop things in terms of like screen real estate, but it is limited by cursor. So I've been at places that have looked at tablet in two different ways: is like it's a large mobile device or it's a small desktop. Um, and because there's a lot of people you could argue with, like Chromebooks or MacBook Airs, and their screen real estate is comparable to an iPad. And so, which one do you start designing for? Again, this starts getting into more development side on whether you do like device sniffing. Like I've just leaned on developers for what that is, but in general, it's kind of dicey. I meant if you would ditch something. Sorry. No need to apologize, man. I'm running a little slow today. I don't know what it is. So thank you to anyone for all the people who are here. I don't have the exact stats right now. I figure this being a day stream and talking about Ari's site, it might be a little more popular. So are you asking if I would ditch like Ari's site on tablet? Because actually don't know if I've tested on tablet. He might just be doing device sniffing, in which case he serves up the mobile static version that says full experience on desktop. Sketch versus Figma versus XD. Trying to start a fucking war in here, man. I've never really had a strong opinion. Like, I've never touched XD. That's kind of my. I never understood the value of it, and I had already committed to Sketch at that point because I was in Photoshop forever. Like comically long, comically old versions of it as well. But yeah, so I can't speak on XD. Everything I've heard has been kind of confusing, but my understanding is that it's come a long way. Sketch, that was what came right after Photoshop. It was kind of pre-Figma, so that's where I made the jump. And so all my libraries and everything are built into Sketch. All my Stream Deck automations are all built into Sketch. It's just kind of where I went. And I've done projects. I did a client project in Figma, and like I started the same day, and it was, I don't know, it was like the same thing but reskinned. I think it was a much nicer skin in Figma. And I'm sure there's other advantages of it. My guess is, I've heard you can like export out code from it. I think you can kind of do that in Sketch. I don't really know. I just never really needed to do that. But yeah, Sketch is kind of my go-to for everything that's interactive. Anything that's, so my beef with Sketch, Figma, and probably XD, although I know nothing about it, is like the lack of any image processing. I think if you live exclusively within like the Sketch and Figma world, like you're bound to get a very Sketch Figma design. I think like there's a lot you can do with typography and layout, don't get me wrong. But I think like if you want to do something that's a bit more out there, you need some of like the image processing abilities of Photoshop. And I'm not saying to go like skeuomorphic and start doing shit like that. I mean, you can. It's always been my jam, but yeah, it's like the systemizing is also kind of like a blessing and a curse. Like you'll just find yourself overly systemized, and it's perfect for apps. It's perfect for like e-commerce stuff. Like when I was like at Basic and we shifted to Sketch, like things were almost like ahead of timeline, which was just like unheard of. Like especially when it comes to like e-commerce type shit, you have one change and you have to go through and change every instance of it. Like you could do it with smart objects. It wasn't always done. It was just kind of like copy paste, like recreate one, copy paste, make the grid, kind of have it, but it wasn't as flexible. So it's phenomenal for stuff like that. But I think if you want to get out on the fringes a little bit, it's not necessary. I mean, I'm sure some people might think of this as on this art website on the fringe, but fully done in Sketch. I don't think I did anything. I maybe modified some of the assets in Photoshop, but I didn't really use Photoshop. So there you go. It's like however you want to kind of use the tools that you have. It's I've never understood the fierce allegiance people have of like Figma sucks. Like I'm just ride or die with Sketch. Like yeah, go ahead. Like, they're mostly the same if you ask me. Like one's a symbol, one's a component. Shortcuts are different. One's browser based, one's desktop. I don't know. And again, like this could be me woefully ignorant, just because when I invest in myself in like new tools, I don't really deviate from them unless I have good reason to do it. And for me, like CS6 was what I learned. Like I spent years in CS6, probably like 6 or 7 years in CS6, and I didn't see a great advantage to CC, and like all I saw were problems that came with it, so I never felt motivated to do it. And so it's like, okay, I can get performance issues, and I can get like smart guides, or I can add clouds or something to the sky, whatever. Like with my time, my priorities are to learning something new to expand my skill base. So I would look to like, okay, I want to get into After Effects more at that point. Like I didn't bother learning another design tool. I had Photoshop. I'd rather just go off and explore something new like After Effects, or get into photo editing with Lightroom. So yeah. Going back to your comment of predicating your design decisions on exploration, any tips on walking a line when it comes to e-commerce design, i.e. when to play it safe and when to experiment? Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't know if like the answer will be very satisfying. Probably the most performant site is going to be the most efficient, and that's not typically the most exciting, unfortunately. Oh, I might have missed a comment too. Sorry, I'll catch up. Yeah, there's one other I need to get to. I'm gonna highlight that. Yeah, it's like some people do some really avant-garde type, or I don't know if that's what you'd call it. If you go to awards and see what's winning sites of the day for e-commerce, it's always kind of interesting to me. Like I came into e-commerce early. Like Nixon was my sort of like main e-commerce project. I worked on a bunch of others, and it was it's like Volcom was one of them, and that was like all about creating like a grungy brand that also converted. So it was like for that one, it was about establishing like canvases for people to explore in, or for like the artist to just go nuts. So like that's where you can bring in the grungy character, but like the base level foundation is very straightforward. So like I don't know if I have a great one size fits all answer for that. I think it's partially knowing who your demographic is, and it's again like you don't want to assume too much, but like you'll see there's like boutique shops that'll really start pushing it in terms of like interactions that I don't think the average person's gonna get, but the person who's maybe they're in their target audience would understand it. Someone who's like design savvy, knows interactions. I mean, this is pretty straightforward, to be honest. But it's a lot of these. It's like you look at them, but you don't know like how well they convert, and this can go into like a much broader conversation about like how analytics play a role in design, and whether like how much you should really listen to them, because you can create narratives in opposite directions from the same analytics. So it all depends on like you can bend it to however you want to see it. I can't remember. I had a great example of like scroll height, and it was like users weren't scrolling. I can't remember what it was. I'll think about that one. But basically, like users weren't scrolling, and there were opposite directions you could take to solve it. Whether it was, or no, users weren't clicking, so it's like you have a long home page, but then you have everything. I don't know. I'm doing a bad job of explaining this one. I've kind of gotten out of e-commerce, if I'm being entirely honest. It can be kind of strenuous to have everything tied to like a company's bottom line. So everything is scrutinized to the nth degree, and I think that's where you're going to find a lot of rigidity in e-commerce. But I think it's like picking your moments. If it's and having like good reason for it. So like for me, like home pages, anything below like you have like your typically your hero, and then you have your primary routing options into the categories, and then you get into what I would call is like the exploration mode of like these people who are going down here are either really curious or they just don't know what they want. So like push it. Like how do you want to push the brand through and not so much the commerce? Like you're trying to convince people that like the products coming from this company are worth buying, and that's about generating interest. That's so I think that's where you can be more expressive. But when it comes down to like converting and like you have people in like a product category page, like that's the further you get down the funnel, the less expressive you want to be, and the more like Amazon you want to be. Like, they live and die. I think they make every decision based off of extensive analytics. That's my understanding of it. Um, so it might not be that exciting. So homepage, picking and choosing your moments, and having reasons for being more expressive. Like if you know that like through analytics or through like a broader campaign that you know you're going to be pushing people like to a collection page, um, it's like how do you get people up to speed on the brand just as much the product, so then you can have more of that equilibrium, and that way you can justify it of like there's an ad campaign going on Instagram to whatever parameters. They don't necessarily understand the brand, but we'll need to do a little education once they get there. Like, here's the product first, but then like how do you reinforce it? So, very long, random answer. Um, Hope that kind of helps. Can you also talk about finding your style? Like, I instantly recognize your work in the wild. It has a hierarchy of good design. I, you might find some who would disagree with that. I think it's. Um, I've been in denial about actually having a style for the longest time. I just thought like I didn't want to be that person with a style. Like I wanted to be like the oh this could be weird. I see myself in a second. Yeah. A little bit of a delay. I wanted to be able to like to me the ideal art director is someone who can literally do everything. In terms of styles, like a cosmetic company can come to me and I can just as easily handle something like that as I can like something like with Ash. Like again, like it's still gonna have like a masculine spin to it, but I don't have all these. Yeah, so it's like for me, it was all about finding deficiencies in my work of like what aren't I representing? What am I not capable of doing? Um, and I actually recently got this feedback um, when I was working with Apple. It was just like the product I was on was not, my manager didn't feel like it was complementary to my style, which stung a little bit because it was like one of those things like I thought I was able to kind of bend myself to. Um, so I like to think I have range, but it's it's funny unless like you're on the outside looking in, you don't kind of pick up on the through lines between things. Like I think there's definitively like through lines in terms of like um, I always think of style as just like alignment of just micro decisions all along the way of like this is how I space things, this is my contrasts that I prefer, this is how I like to establish hierarchy, and like I mean there's definitely other designers I can just pick out. There's like the Ben Mingos, the Brian Powells, the um, whoever, like I can spot their work pretty quickly. I didn't feel like mine had that sort of like unanimously recognizable style, but I think it does, which is interesting. So, um, so whether I mean, you might be asking the wrong person about finding your style. If you know what you want to do and you want to operate within a space, then like maybe it makes more sense to be more dialed in on like, okay, this is the space I want to operate within. Like that means I need to have like this sort of look dialed. I need to understand um, e-commerce, or I need to understand like just more like subtle nuances of different things in different worlds, which would probably ladder back up to different styles. So probably another just terrible answer. So feel free to ask like any of these, like if they just don't make sense. I'm trying to get caught up on some comments, and I know I just kind of ramble on stuff. But yeah, I appreciate the kind words. But yeah, I wouldn't stress on finding your style. I think it's something that'll just come to you over time. It's just all these decisions just start like becoming consistent. And I think like if you want to have a recognizable style, that's I think maybe a different conversation of like making conscious decisions to be different in certain ways, but being consistent about how you make them. Be devil's advocate, whether it's really a positive thing to make the same type of decisions the same way, because then there's the risk of just looking like one dimensional. Like if someone comes to you for an art direction, they want to think that you can deliver what's in the brief and not what's like basically a reworked version of something that you've already done. So again, but then also at the same time, people might come to you because of that look. So yeah, it goes both ways. Let's see. Talked about exploration. The wave scroll is so satisfying. I think a sound effect would work well with this design too, like a click for each page. I can't remember if we talked about it. It would be kind of fun to do, like sound design. I've always wanted to do it. Yeah. I don't think it was really a definitive conversation. I think it was maybe something we kicked around for a second, but never seriously. Not because it's a bad idea. It was just we had other fish to fry at that point. But yeah, I think it'd be fun. Like I'm trying to do more production, so I'm getting into like, and my style is probably more ambient. So I don't know, it'd be fun. And get into like Wavetable and Ableton, and you can really just like go nuts with all the LFOs and make sort of weird shit. I switched to Figma mostly because of performance. A large project, it works much better, faster compared to Sketch. The same thing happened when I switched from Photoshop to Sketch. I agree. I think for me, the jump to Photoshop to Sketch was eye-opening. But then I think Sketch kind of fell along the same path as Photoshop in some ways. Is like they became like the de facto design tool, and they didn't really have to be as like on top of everything, like performance and innovation. Like they kind of like innovated in the beginning, and then it was about, I don't know if it was sales or whatever it was, but it did feel like performance started taking a hit. And let's see, like, oh, I'm in the wrong document. This one. Hey, like for me, these sort of documents weren't that bad. Sorry. I'm trying to see like what's the biggest file I have. Oh, yeah, I went down the final route of naming. I thought I was done a while ago. Is this the biggest one? No. There's an about page that's just deep end. But short of it is like performance for me hasn't been much of an issue. I bought a year license for Sketch, and that recently lapsed. Or no, that lapsed like a year ago. So I think I was on like Sketch 64. And so my understanding is like since then they came out with a lot of performance enhancements for things that rely heavily on symbols, which I'll open up the final file. So I'm really about symbols. I appreciate the value. I'm lazy as fuck, and I don't want to go through and like redo all of the. Let's go to this one. Sorry, I'm just going. I'm like, I have different workspaces for different apps, but because Streamlabs doesn't remember the windows, it just comes up blank. So then I just have to go through and choose them again. Let's see, sketch. I think this is, yeah. There was a grid view at one point. I think some people probably remember that. Another performance thing. But like looking at all these different states, there was a vertical navigation at one point when it was free scroll-ish. This is like before the interaction, because it was supposed to be like a vertical version of this horizontal indicator. Also thinking about timers. Like there's a lot of things that are kind of buried within these. But again, these are actually animation frames, so kind of ignore that. But the idea of like the footer meta, like depending on the comp, I can just do it. And if you know Sketch, this is just like 101. But for me, the value was there. And so actually on this next project that we're working on, it's like the amount of symbols and nested symbols is getting crazy. And so even on like my Mac Pro, everything was just chugging. And so I thought about upgrading, and it looks like they did a lot of upgrades in one of the more recent ones for like heavily symboled documents with a lot of, I don't know, it's a lot of assets, a lot of like symbols. So yeah, I hear you. I've always heard Figma's fast. Like my experience with it is always like the one project I worked on, it was very responsive. There are some things still that Sketch lags on from time to time, but for me, like Photoshop's my baseline, like you coming from Photoshop to Sketch. Like I know how bad it can be, so if it needs to load a little bit, and like for me, it's like I take a look at like if this was in Photoshop, like how would that go? And probably not as well as what's going on here. So let's see. Yeah, I feel that on the scroll into the projects, working on projects with WebGL, you definitely find some pitfalls of something dope, but then it affects X, Y, and Z just to get that one dope thing. Also agree that you get used to clicking into it quickly. It threw me off at first, then I got it after that. Yeah, and so that, like, this is Ari and I's first project together. And so I think I asked a lot of really stupid questions. And I still am, like, I think Ari wanted to send a hit squad on me this morning, just asking like really dumb questions. And like he's very insistent on performance, like very insistent. And that's what I love about him is like he's very determined to make things the best. So yeah, there's like all these little things I didn't know about in terms of like how things render, how things load. I'm starting to get it. He would probably just say like I don't know shit still. Like the amount of times he said like again, like this is how it is. I'd be like, well, what about this? He's like, again, this is how it is. So the man's a saint for dealing with me. But yeah, there's like all these trade-offs that like maybe we could have gotten things to work, but it would see significant performance hits that we're just not really willing to take on this one. And thank you again for everyone, like all the comments and everything. Like, keep them coming. Like, I think the theme is already sight, but like all the design questions and tools and everything, like, I mean, you can ask photo questions. We can go there, unless there's a riot amongst the people. Like, from what I've seen from the metrics, like I think there's a lot more interest in design. The hard part is how I show design. Like, I can't show projects that haven't even gone to development yet, unless there's like an agreement. This next one isn't one, unfortunately. I'll be stepping into the world of e-commerce design soon, so I appreciate the explanation. Definitely seems like a gray area for sure, but because good UI is part of the UX. Yeah, absolutely. And there's ways to like do interesting things. Like I don't think e-commerce has to be boring. Um, it kind of should, to be honest. But again, like it's going back to like where it is in the ecosystem and the broader, like what is its role in the broader kind of landscape. I think that's something like a lot of places kind of forget. A lot of people forget is like just thinking about the broader, like where people are coming from, what they understand, what they know, who are they, um, and yeah, like just having, like if you want to start pushing it, just make sure you have justification on like why that's not going to deter sales, because I think you'll find clients in general, like if it serves a good purpose, like I think having like bleeding edge stuff, I don't think you'll find a lot of people who, not bleeding edge, but like let's say it's a little progressive, but it like is in line with the brand. They'll be really receptive to the idea until it like affects the bottom line. Like so, if it's like, yeah, if it's obscure, you're gonna have an issue. But I don't think there's a hard and fast rule at this point. E-commerce has come a long way since back in the day. I don't know what it was, 2016, 2017. I can't remember. But yeah, definitely feel free to hit me with more of those. I know I still, my second go and I still haven't really answered it, so like, welcome to my stream. You know, I try. This is the participation award that I so truly deserve. How'd you start in web design and when? Can you share a story with us? A story? Yeah, I wonder what like my oldest project is that I have. I'm kind of a pack rat, but I don't think I have. I don't think I have anything that goes way back. Date modified. Yeah, I think the old stuff I trashed. Just looking through some of this stuff again. Wait, it's not okay. Good. I don't there's stuff I'm not supposed to show. Apparently, I can never show it because of the NDA that was on it, but it's kind of old. I don't feel like getting in trouble. Story time. Yeah, so I was a photo major, and long story short, I didn't like the classes, and my cousin struggled as a photographer, so I was like, I don't want to live in a shack and just kind of be hustling all the time. That's not my personality. And so my brother owned a like web company at that point. It was kind of loose on what they did. Like they did emails, they did websites, they did like email servers. So he's a computer engineer, but he needed some designs for things, and that's kind of how I got into like, I designed like their homepage. It was just like the worst thing you've ever seen in the world. But they went with it, and it was like, oh shit, like it's on the internet. That's kind of cool. So basically from there went to, I decided to switch majors to design and just came up with a portfolio on the spot. And like, I just kind of went all in and just dropped dead on photography on the spot. And I think I was okay at it. Like, I think because I'd done the explorations with my brother like a couple years before. So I kind of knew it was something I liked and I could be okay at. It was all trash, but I applied to, I don't know if they're still around anymore. I was an intern at Level Studios in San Luis Obispo. They are still around. Wow. Yeah, this goes way back. So they had a contest at our school. I applied. I ended up winning with a. Can't remember. Wow, I can like see it in my head, but I can't actually picture what the design was. But I ended up winning, getting an internship. Fun fact, they had an open bar and I got thrown out. Unlike the first week I was there, somehow they didn't fire me. Um, yeah, that's another story for another day. Um, but yeah, I did that, and then they were doing a lot of. Oh man, I can't believe I don't have any of this stuff. They did a lot of like gaming stuff. We did like Mortal Kombat. Is that still here? It was like right as Flash was coming around, so it was like a big debate was like, do we do a Flash website or do we do an HTML site? Which was it's kind of funny in hindsight. I don't have any of that. Check Mortal Kombat. But that's how I got into like the compositing type stuff. And just kept going and got into marketing, got into e-commerce. That was sort of with Basic 4 years ago? No, 6 years ago. I was at Basic for a year and a half, and then worked at Apple, went back for, I think it was a total of 4 years there, and that was like, it was like me and Matt Falk, who's the CEO. Like, I think it was like 15, it was like 12 people there at that point. And so we just worked a lot, and like I just got to do a lot of pre-sales stuff, which is just like mental crazy timelines, but it was always like new art directions. So and he was able to push me and kind of like get me in the right direction. So I was lucky that I just got like a ton of experience. I also worked at FI under Anton Repinin, who's a fucking G. Like, if you don't know him, like, I went in thinking I like knew something about design, and I remember he sat me down, we're working on a project, and like, I was a senior designer. I'd come off being an art director before, but like, I didn't really have like a lot of system around my design. And he's like, "Do you know what a grid is?" I was like, "Hmm." He like sat there and like drew like, this is what a grid looks like. This is how a grid works. And like, he wasn't trying to be like patronizing, but it was like my designs literally were not on a grid. And so he taught me all sorts about structure, how to break it. Not to mention like he was creative directing, but he was just like if you look at his projects, like he's fucking crazy. Still by all standards, like he's one of the best out there. Um, he's like part owner with Anton and Irene. I think they have like a decent amount of people working there now. But yeah, owe this guy a lot for where I'm at. I mean, he just comes up with these like he just made a watch. I don't know. He's just like one of these uniquely creative people. And you can buy this watch is real. This is not a concept. I think it started as a concept and it turned into something that he actually made. But just like smart fucking design. So let me put his link in the chat. But yeah, then parted ways with Basic, went independent, and that's where I've been since. I don't know if I'm really not a good storyteller. Yeah, and it's been good going freelance. I've been working with Apple predominantly, a couple random clients here and there, but I'm still like 2 years in, and I'm still pretty new to like independent work. And I just had a lot of time with Apple. I was able to save up a little bit, so now I'm kind of using the flexibility. Like I was supposed to travel, but can't right now. And I'm just using it for passion projects. So that's the perks of what's it called? Yeah, being independent. It's like if you're looking to go independent, there's no good time to do it. Trust me. I just got backed in a corner, and I just said, I always said someday, and I was like, fuck it, I'll say that forever. Like, I might as well just do it. So, went for it. Show me a 150-page research deck on those 8-pixel rounded corners. Wait. I must have missed something. 150-page research deck on those 8-pixel rounded corners. That sounds like something I would say. That's like the one thing that always gets me. Is like, yeah, it's. Yeah, nonsensical logo redesign. Is this pentagram? Oh, none of the images work. Weird. Yeah, this fucking thing. And like the extensive shit that they did to justify it just fucking cracks me up. I just saw, there's one of like, I saw this and I couldn't unsee it. It's like, it's forever the fat guy. Not to dig on. I don't know who did this. I think it said in one of those articles, but I just totally forgot. It's not Pentagram, I don't think. Let's see. Where am I? Yeah, thank you again for everyone who's like showing up and chatting in here, like asking questions. Fucking love it. Definitely ask some dumb questions too. WebGL and shaders are like magic I'll never understand properly. Dead on, man. Like, it's... Ari and I have done screen shares, and he's pulled up stuff on his screen, and it's just like, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. And he's just in there, just like, and it's all hand-coded, done from scratch, and it's like, damn, dude. You understand a second, third language, I think, 3 languages? Dude knows a lot of languages. Including coding. NDAs, boo, yeah. Yep. I mean, it's the nature of the beast in our work. Like, I was really salty about it for a while. I have pushed the limits of NDAs sometimes. I've caught shit for like posting clients, but then not showing the work. But it's like Beats, and it was Apple. And if you want to circumvent that, or if you want to go ahead and post stuff, like, be my guest. I don't think they're too kind or receptive to that sort of stuff. So I choose to not test the waters too much. I don't want to get... I mean, the worst they're going to do is just tell you to take it down, but you don't want to get known as that guy who's just posting shit that you shouldn't. It might in the short term be beneficial to show some of those projects, but long run it kind of bites you in the ass, I think. Although one of my favorite was, there was a art director who I used to work with. I won't name names, but he worked with tons of people. I don't think his website's still up. But he would put a password on it, but in the prompt he would say, like, due to NDAs I can't show this work. It has a very I can't remember what the word was. It was like extensive or something, in like bold, italics, quotes, underline, password. And that was the password. And so, I mean, there was a lot of like brand guidelines and stuff, and I think concept work that probably shouldn't have been out. I mean, I don't think he ever got in trouble for it, but that's where you can like blur the lines if you want. But then I've had other, like some previous employers say, like, even somewhat recently, like, if you're going to show work, we need approval on who you're sharing it with. And in which case, like, I didn't want a dialogue with them, more or less, like, every time someone wants to see it. Which there were some people who, like, would email me about stuff. And so I just decided to take down lock case studies. Like, I can maybe show stuff in private at home, not on a shared screen, which is unfortunate because some of that stuff, like some of the concept work with Apple, is probably some of my favorite. Um, Google stuff, nothing to write home about. I can't remember what else is locked up, but let's see. You should start with Book of Shaders and it will lead to better design decisions. Book of Shaders. That's fucking sweet. Interesting. What is a shader? Oh, so this is like. This gets you back to the bare bones. Yeah, I'm like impatient, so I want to like jump up to the cool stuff. Let's do some random shit. Trolling chaos. Now we're talking. This is interesting. I'd be curious if like the syntax is something that I could grasp, but I don't know. The way Ari talks about it and what I've seen him do, it's just like I don't know. But it's like JavaScript. Like I think JavaScript is a syntax a lot of people can wrap their heads around, but I just can't do it. What is your experience and opinion of working at Apple? I hope this is not an inappropriate question. Nah, I don't know. And there's no like ask anything. Like I swear I will not get offended. Promise. I'm not easily offended by much. Kind of heard it all. But Apple is. I don't know. I love working there. There's so many good people there. It's just crazy. The amount of talent that, like, at every level is crazy. Um, I don't think I want to go into any of the negative things too much. I think, like, high level, it's a big company. And so I went in there thinking I was going to, like, steer the ship in a different direction and, like, eye opener for me. Because I was used to, I was talking about, like, a basic, it was me and Matt Falk basically just, like, he was the only person who had to sign off on things. So I was given so much just, like, runway to do whatever the fuck I wanted. Um, and we were on the same page, so there wasn't a lot of, like, pushback. When I went to Apple, it was like, yeah, that's cool, but that's not Apple. Like, well, what do you mean? Let's make it Apple. And they're like, no. Like, my managers have been there long enough to understand how the machine works, and like, if you just give them something that is like a hard right turn, like, it's just gonna get, it's gonna get dumped on real quick. So I got really frustrated. I was ready to leave after like 4 months, because that was like when I was going through the ideation on one of the projects, and like internally amongst our team it got traction, but the second it went to anyone else above, it was just like glossed over instantly. um, I think only thing that of mine that really got made was one of the old watch sites. I don't remember which one, but it was based on one of my directions. Um, and a lot of times when I did art direction, like mine ended up being one of the directions that was at least on the table, and it went from that to just like next, like I don't get it, not Apple, wrong. Um, so it's frustrating in that component, but you learn to operate within like a different set of parameters, like all sorts of fun noises today. Yeah, like you just learn of like what your sphere of influence is there. So for me, like at an agency doing pre-sales and doing and leading like design on projects, like I'd done Nixon before that, and that was like exclusively me, beginning to end. There were a couple people who helped out here and there, but it was just like this was like all my work, to from then being relegated to like one page of a product and inheriting someone else's style because mine just like never got off the drawing board. Um, but then like once that happened, I kind of got over that little adjustment. It was more about um, like okay, I'm not working on the broad strokes of things. Like my sphere of influence is really fucking small. So like making peace with that took a while. I mean, it's a little bit humbling, but it was good. It taught me like you don't have to you don't have to do it all, and like you can make a smaller window of influence like more interesting. So I had the luxury of just noodling things to the nth degree, and like that's what happens at Apple is like they have people who are just dedicated to the tiniest details, and those details go through like several layers of people to vet at all sorts of lenses. Do I always think it's right? No, I definitely don't. And I think there's a lot of different motivations for it. Um, but it's just the system of checks and balances that keeps Apple a very tight brand from everything. Um, so if you're looking for creative latitude, I don't know if that's a place I'd recommend, but for me, it was like on some of the projects, I just got to work on just little components and working with like a creative tech who was like doing WebGL shaders or doing just crazy, just creative development. And we were able to just like control things to a degree like you never could in like the agency world. It was always like, yeah, we'll get to that in phase two, which means you're never fucking doing it because there is no phase two. It's not budgeted. It's not. It's not in the roadmap. It's contingent on like great success of the project and additional budget. But it does happen. But don't get your hopes up, is what I would say. Um, so I mean, everything that goes out the door from an agency, it's always on like a budget and time constraint. So what is delivered is never to the full potential. Um, I think within the like at Apple, within the confines of like all the checks and balances, like it is they maximize the potential of what's possible within those checks and balances. So it's just a different sort of creative gratification, but it's I don't know. Like it took me a while to like, but I really do enjoy working there. Um, yeah, even going like I've gone back as a contractor. I was there full time, and I went back on the same team as a contractor. Um, so well, some of the same people. My manager had left, but yeah, so that's more or less Apple. It's all yeah. It's also very intimidating. Like the people who walk around, like some very recognizable names, and they're just like cruising down the hallway. It's wild. Um, I have time. It's easier to work with. Let's see what it does. Just fucking around. Yeah, dude. Like, by all means, like, I don't want this to be a fucking stuffy channel. Like, I just, yeah, like, there's no rigid structure to this shit. Like, I'm clearly unpolished. I'm winging the shit out of this. I'm probably pretty awkward in front of the camera. Um, but it's, you know, 3 days in a row making progress. Um, Colby, it's good, man. It's been a minute. Um, yeah, thanks for coming back, man. Been a minute. But yeah, I think I'm on day 3 in a row of doing streams. I'm trying to get consistent with it. Now that I'm not gainfully employed, I figure I can carve out a couple hours a day. Um, yeah, I'd be curious, like if you guys have any input on like time of day that is best. because I'm pretty flexible. Like I get up early and I work on my own stuff early morning. I try to get gym out of the way, so that means I have afternoons wide open, or I can shift things around and do like morning streams. So, and I think like everyone's in different time zones. I've had people like pop in one of the morning streams, say like, all right, go to bed. It's like, that's right. So I really don't know what the best time is. So I think with there being a couple more people than usual here, definitely feel free to chime in. Thanks for the comprehensive answer. Of course, man. Like, I'm fully aware I ramble. So again, if anything's not quite uh, hitting the mark, definitely feel free to just be like, "You dipshit!" Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Uh, yeah. I don't know. I mean, if what is the priority at this point? Go through more of the build. More process, something else, go photos. Wouldn't mind you streaming late afternoon your time so I can tune in at night after work. Yeah, that was kind of the thought because you're East Coast, so it's like if I wait till 6 o'clock West Coast time, I think that rules out pretty much all of Europe because I have this little, it's called clocker or something. So 6 p.m. is like middle of the night. It's like 3 a.m. in parts of Europe. That's not great. That might be too late. I do a morning stream. It's evening. Yeah, I'll figure it out. I don't mind the afternoon sort of time. I think it works best for me because I think I'm most productive in the morning. Like I wake up at 6 o'clock every day, no matter what time I go to bed. But just blast like 3 cups of coffee and just get to work on my shit. Um, then I usually take a break, and then um, noonish on, I'm kind of available. But I do want to make these a priority. So if there's consensus that like I need to shift things around, like definitely open to it. Did you do animation work for this project? I did not. I did some. I did some like loose wireframing. I gotta find out where that is. Let's see. I think it's final or final. Where is this shit? Oh, I think I found the one where I went off the deep end. No, I did not. Let me see if I can pull this up. Sketch. Let's go to a different tab. Sketch. Final. There's not even the final. Why isn't it showing up? Not even showing up in my Streamlabs options. Maybe if I close something. See, at worst I can do like a desktop stream. Fuck. Yeah, it's not letting me do it. Okay. We'll go desktop stream. Let me get my shit together. Make sure I'm not showing anything I shouldn't. Through all the tabs. Okay, I think we're Gucci. Desktop stream. There we go. Let's see, sketch. It's not this one. So, like through different phases, really all I needed to do, like showing different some of like the scaling, how opacity works. This is actually was refined later, but it was just all about keyframes, and I think it really depends on like the developer you work with. For me, it's like working with Ari. Like, give him a still and he'll make it come to life. I like it's almost to a point where some of the stuff he does, like I just can't even take credit for it. Like he'll see something in static form and he'll just like like I'll send him these screenshots and he takes them into his tool and I don't know if he has a tablet, but he just like writes up like 1, 2, 3 and like this animates here and like this is how we'll do the transition. And usually it's kind of like along the lines of what I'm thinking. So it's very easy. So I did a couple things. We had an idea for like a preloader of like all these numbers fly by and then whatever the tens digit is what sticks. So it's just kind of like this constant like parade of numbers, and it was supposed to play into the idea of these always animating. This is kind of like a legacy thing that stuck around. We ended up doing something way simple. Some of these like drag states, default. Well, that's not ideal. Then getting into like different options for this of like establishing the layering, the sequencing. So I like if I'm using Sketch, I just do simple like motion blurs to help like display motion. I don't think Ari had seen this sort of tactic done before. He's like, I'm not blurring that. I was like, fuck, I know. Because I asked him like on my old site, I blurred everything and I asked him how to do it. It's one of my favorite things. It's just ask him how to do it. He's just like, don't. So he was a little confused and was very adamant about not doing that. But you can see like we've kind of come a little ways, but just like showing different states of like, okay, project detail. But this is how the framework's going to work. It's like this lateral movement of like green shifting over red, click into red, red animates up. So one of the ideas I had was having the hero project image always being visible at the top and kind of like a faded out. So whatever was here would go. We were playing on different ideas, whether like images just stacked here on top of each other, and so this was always like a clean transition out. Like this red image was always going to be like going to here, so that was like an easy transition out. Turned out we didn't really need to do it that way. Ari found a way to kind of like, well, with what we ended up, it was like this image, red image, could just live like right off the canvas, and then that's what would animate back down. I go. So you could be like deep into the project, all these images stacking up, and it just slides back in behind it. So like the layering is something that was, I think, determined through the wires. The motion in general was determined. Like we've had all sorts of different motifs for that, but like specking out like animation curves, never did with Ari. He always handled that. I'd give him feedback, like if something didn't quite feel right, like it's like, all right, it's kind of like taking a long time to stop. Oh, this is a different idea of just like, oh, this is like a click and drag. So you could do like a quick drag and everything kind of condenses down. So this was like the vertical version of like, where is it? Where am I? What the hell? Oh, it's way up here. So it's basically the vertical version of this. it didn't end up making sense at all, but it was an idea that came about. And then it was like, all right, so if I want to convey the idea of like once you get to the end, you can go to the next project, or it was like all projects is what it should have been. So then like the grid resurfaces down below. Then you scroll out, and then you back at that sort of navigational moment. So yeah, no real animation. It was all just keyframes, and then he'd just take the rest. And then when it came to like how these animated in, he had done something like just, I think he had moved them all the way off the canvas to on, and like that wasn't right. So then I at some point I did different, just like keyframes showing like, okay, like that's not really what I think makes the most sense, since we can't be continuous of like from the drag state, we can't have titles moving. So let's kind of have them kind of unmask instead. So I just did like a quick, like created rectangles around it, had like a 4-step animation showing it, and he just handled everything from there. So that's the beauty of working with Ari, is like I can focus on my world, which is design, and the interaction. Like I definitely have a say on it, but I don't have to like spec everything out with him. It's kind of fucking crazy and amazing. So, yeah. Watching at 1 a.m. here, UK time. Damn. Appreciate you, man. That's crazy. Maybe I'll work on getting these in a little earlier so you can go to bed at a reasonable hour. Let's see here. That coffee though. Oh, T Crate, you're here again, bro. Good looking out. Have I talked about cinnamon yet? Not today. What do you do on your breaks, and how long do you take breaks for? I've been trying to figure out my day off schedules to be more productive. Oh man, this is kind of an interesting one for me, because I've like beginning of the pandemic, like I went to Hawaii for 6 months, and they don't really take to outsiders unless you're there for a couple years, because they just assume everyone's a tourist. Is not wrong. And they don't really like tourists. They like their money. They don't like the people. So I went like 6 months without really interacting with anyone, and I just worked constantly. I like left Hawaii without ever getting a tan. Like I'd go surf, but that was about it. Um, so I had no balance, and I know what that's like. And I did fine, I think. I think I started getting a little burnt out after 6 months. Um, so for me now, a big balance is I've always like used working out as my outlet. It like whether it's gym, whether it's like jumping on a bike, like that's how I clear my head. I used to run a lot, and that was very cathartic for me. Because you could dissociate at times, and you can like think about things at different times. Like I had a lot of ideas come to me when I was running. My knees don't want to run anymore, so I am not a runner. I'm just on like a stationary bike for all my cardio, but that's kind of the same thing of like just having like a moment to disconnect. Um, I think it helps, but I think I still struggle with carving out the time for it. Um, Spending time with the girlfriend, I think, is important. Like we spend a lot of time on weekends. Like left to my own devices, I'll just work constantly, and I won't see anyone. I've lost contact with so many people just because I work all the time, which I don't necessarily advise, but um, that's kind of my motor. Is like it's always kind of going, and I always like want to work. Like if my girlfriend's over here and she wants to go do something, like if she goes and takes a shower, like I'll just jump on my computer and start like working on some stuff. So that itch is always there, but I'd say exercise is huge. Making time to travel when we can has been a good balance. I play some Call of Duty, I'm not gonna lie, and some Rocket League. It's staring at another screen, which I don't think is healthy, but Yeah, that's definitely an outlet for me. I get to reconnect with some people I don't get to see all that often. Um, but yeah, that's. But the problem is like during the day, like outside of working out and sometimes seeing friends, like I'm just working all day. So I'm probably not the best person to talk to. But I think road trips are good. Um, yeah, road trips and exercise. I found like I can be more productive after that. Um, but it's also for me, it's like there's benefits of taking time off, but um, at some points I start feeling like I'm missing out and like I'm being left behind because I'm not able to execute on ideas. Like I'm not working for too long, then I get cagey and I'm not good to be around. So there's a balance. um, what's your workspace setup? So I have a standing desk. I should probably great reminder. Going up on Tuesday. I think it works. Um, I always forget. So, um, yeah, standing desk, very simple. Um, I have the Mac Pro, I have the display, I have a Stream Deck in front of me. Still working on how valuable that is. Um, I have, so let's see, I have a NAS storage, which does all my backups. So I have, was it RAID 2? I think. So it's like fully redundant on the NAS local drive. But it's a Synology drive, and that does nightly backups to Amazon Glacier. So that is like a double redundancy, um, but it's also done through Arc. I don't know if I'm going to expose any interesting. What if I just do this for a second? Sorry, stuck with me. Make sure I'm not. Yeah, I probably don't want to show this on stream. Um, but Arc basically creates these like nightly backups, so I can do time machine based backups that are then sent to the NAS drive, which then has a nightly schedule of backing it up. It's been a godsend. I don't have like drives all over the place. Um, I don't know if that's what you meant by a workplace setup. Um, Other than that, I've got a chair from Uplift, filing cabinet, got a speaker. Yeah, I mean, I'm really minimal. Like, I don't really like a lot of stuff. Um, so I just kind of like piecemeal things together, but as little as possible is kind of my jam. Um, oh wait, you can use arrow keys to navigate the site. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Ari, I mean, it was one of the things I wanted us to do, but he's the one who fully built out the system of what all the values are, and I never asked him what they were. Um, or no, he did tell me. He would tell me what about is, but it's like if you had to take a guess what the key commands were for everything, it kind of works. So this is all like left, 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 right, 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 down, 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 down. Escape goes back again. Get to the about page, go back, right, down, left, 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 left. You can go as fast as you want. This is where like I would try and break it. It was just like keyboards. Like I don't think I can go this fast. Like I'm just mashing fucking keys and it still keeps up. So yeah, give it a try. I think I really like it for keyboard. Um, so yeah, give it a spin. It's cool to see. I've done stuff like this before when working with Jesper Landberg. You need the right dev to be able to just hand this off and have it work. Yes. Um, like a creative-minded, attention-detail developer um, who can then execute to the level that, like, I think creatives are imagining are, I think they're kind of like unicorns. There's not a lot of them, and that's no slight to developers. Like that's like designers being able to code well, and that's not me. I cannot code well. Like I know I have my website, and I know it's technically developed by me, but like it's different. Those guys, like the Landbergs, the Aries, the I'm forgetting all their names. There's like a group of them that are just like very creative and like you don't need to give them a lot of detail. So I'm spoiled. I don't like he's able to take creative liberties with what I have, and like I fully encourage him to do it. Largely because he does them within the parameters of the development. So he knows the limitations. He knows like what can be done, can't be done. And there's times where he's pushed it further than I thought we could do it. Like I was like, oh shit, I didn't know we could do that. So it's kind of nice. Like, and that's the benefit of like this fluid collaboration. Like he's on this next project. I mean, he's wanted to kill me today, but he's been involved with like figuring out framework level stuff and how things function, offering a lot of great insights, understanding the design aspect of it as well. So I'm super lucky. I'm not gonna lie. I've been hitting the jump rope, and I've been a good substitute for running. Less wear on the knees. Yeah, man, that's. I don't know what it is. Like, I always dealt with shin splints forever. I ramped up to like a half marathon. Problem is like I'm not good at running slow, so I'd always get hurt. Um, I always like kind of go all out, but not wise when you're 30 odd some years old. But yeah, and then with the pandemic, you know, I'm one of those people that owns a Peloton bike. And say what you will about it, like I'm fully aware it's a very like how they come across is very uh, unfortunate. I would say I'm not really proud to say that I own a Peloton. Um, although I love the bike, I love the platform, I love the competitiveness of it, I love the metrics. Like it brings back like the competitive running side of me, and without the wear in the knees. I've had like tendon issues, but I've been able to pretty much bike it as much as I want. But yeah, jump rope's good, but I don't think I have the coordination for it. They're like gold, to be honest. It's always the same people popping up. Yeah, I mean it's kind of like a crew of people, and a lot of them. I feel like there's a lot that just like that I don't know the names of, and they work at shops like Active Theory or. I mean, there's a lot in house at Apple. It's crazy. Like Apple and Google have some of the craziest developers, and their names don't really like unless they keep up their side thing and like kind of doing their own experiments on their own time. Like they kind of get lost in like the big machine that is those companies. Get back. So there's a lot of them out there, but they're still not they're still not that common. And so like the ability for me to work with one of them, like it's not lost on me. I don't take that for granted. Um, even if I try and piss them off. I don't try to piss them off. I just piss them off. It's like if you're creative, like you want to just do everything. Like you're just like, oh, WebGL, like we can do everything. Like, I think it was Erwin Hines. I used to work with him at Basic, and like whenever we got pushback, he's like, "They made Google Maps. We can do this shit." It's just like, you're not wrong, but we also don't have years and crazy budget. But technically, like anything's possible. So yeah, we can do anything. Um, yeah, active theory is just some next level shit. Mind blowing the way they do things. Yeah, they just came out with something too. What was it, like the IBM? I didn't really understand it because I didn't take a lot of time with it, but down in the chat. I think they've got their vibe. You can kind of spot their stuff. It's kind of chugging a little bit. I think that's because I'm casting the screen. Audio. I didn't know this. I mean, so they're like telling a story. I don't know how loud that is for you guys. It's very loud in my headphones. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and kill that. I like the idea of like telling a story. And like that's something they do with everything is like they tell stories really well. This is very unfortunate. I swear to God, like people need to stop putting these fucking like surveys all over everything and like, hey, here's your 10% discount. It's like that's one of the things. Like there's a good example of analytics at work. They get analytics that say like, hey, we found out that these prompts convert people 10 times more than anything else. And it's like, okay, that might be true, but compared to what? And can't hear the IBM. Are you hearing sound audio coming through? Oh, it's not. I had this issue earlier. Oh. Weird. So now the range should be back, but here's your audio. Yeah, for the heads up. Oh, I can play the Tyler, if you're here, man, I can play some of that royalty-free stuff. Shit's some jams. Let's see. So, on my stream last night, I was trying to play some, because they give you like an audio library with YouTube, what you can play, and it is, there's a reason it's free. So here goes nothing. Piano Trap Beethoven. Like, I don't know how this is gonna go wrong. Turn that down. Oh, it's so fucking loud. Piano Trap Beethoven. It's funny, he's got some of the same sound design as mine, so I don't feel so good anymore. Oh yeah, but that prompt, that's a byproduct. Oh, this is really obnoxious. I can't get any quieter. Yeah, we're done. Bad experiment, sorry. No more. Oh, man. Let's see. Actually, actually really appreciate the attention to performance. Sites with animations usually make my fans start running, but this site doesn't. Yeah, you know, I actually don't know how hard. Like, I've tested it on my laptop and my desktop, and not once did the fans trigger. like the way Ari talks about stuff and like how things load and how it gets processed on a GPU, and he's very like into the weeds of like how all this shit works. So it's very performant, and like that's what we're kind of working through. I think that's kind of what alluded to with our conversation today of like him wanting to kill me, because I'm asking for things that maybe aren't the most performant, and like his thing is performance, just like my thing is design. So it's like we have to kind of find out where we can compromise, and we're so new to our kind of working together that we're gonna find that balance. And he made it very clear he doesn't want to make non-performance sites. Just like I don't want to make things that don't work properly, or like we just do everything for performance. So, but it's kind of hard to like say you don't want to do it for performance, but then like for me to push for something that's bad performance. Like I don't want to, but push comes to shove. Like if the user experience is going to be better, and like let's say we drop 20 frames per second for a little window, like I think I'm trying to get him okay with that. I think he's receptive to that. I think he thought like, because some of the stuff I initially proposed this morning was like it's gonna like shut everything down. Like it's gonna be, it's not just like kind of bad, like it's fucking terrible, like unusable. So yeah, we're kind of working through that. Let's see. Andy T is such a nice guy too. Is Andy T the owner of Active Theory? I actually don't know a ton about Active Theory. Unless your last name begins with T also, and you're just talking about yourself in the third person. In which case, that's pretty fucking good. I think I remember the owner of Active Theory's or creative director, or yeah. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things. I know a guy, actually, yeah, another photographer who lives in Venice, who's good friends with, I think, maybe him, maybe one of the other, I don't know if there's multiple owners. My understanding of shops is woefully ignorant, so I apologize. People are like, oh, have you heard of their work? And I'm like, no, I don't. I need to get out more. I'm getting better about it, and this is like me going to like Pinterest and kind of getting exposure to more and more things. Like I'll just kind of like take deeper dives in on more shit. So I'm more aware. It's not good to have your head buried in the sand. I can promise you that. Wow, what a jam. Yeah, sorry. I can bring it back. Like I have that ability. Got a link to those tunes. Let me see if, so it's just like, so in YouTube Studio, that's how you manage all the live streams. I can download it. Wait, what was it? The Beethoven Trap? You guys really want the link to this? Careful what you ask for. Beethoven Trap. Enjoy. I don't know how they're finding this. I'm assuming people submit it. I'm gonna be pissed if someone I wonder if they have to clear all this stuff. There's another one called Cat Shat in the Box. Here, you think I'm making this up? Cat Shat in the Box. I don't think those drums could be any fucking louder. Okay, I said no more music. I'm sorry. Oh, this would be a good time. I should plug the No ISO playlist. This is what I was listening to last night. This is what I'm almost always listening to. Shameless plug. Have to do it. All genres. Probably not great for continuous listening, but it floats my boat. How are we doing on time? It's 5:52. 2 hours and change. Oh. Yeah, Shadow Trap Beethoven. Yeah, okay. There you go. You are welcome. And who is it? Josh Pan? Like, if you ever get a bunch of plays, welcome. Oh, he's CD there. Nice. Yeah, I mean, whoever's running it is like clearly prioritizing creative, which is great. It's hard. Very hard to like maintain design integrity to the lengths that they've gone with it. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. I mean, I could probably keep showing this one. Yeah, I don't. You guys have any more questions about this stuff? I mean, you can see where this shit went. It got weird. Like, if you asked me to make sense of this, like, I don't think so. I think there's an idea. I think there was an idea. Who wants to hire me? I think I had an edible for some of these and just went like real weird. Okay, send it. I'm into like weird like dissonant color palettes these days, but that kind of took shape into something that's a bit more palatable. Like some of the color palettes on Ari's site, like I think he's got a vibe that's a bit more mellow. I think this is the one that, like, I told him this is his softer side. Because he, like, tried for a couple times. He's like, I don't know, I like it, but it's so pink. Yeah. I know. Because everything else, it's like, I don't know. I had some crazier ones. Uh-oh. Oh, count that. I've never seen that before. Where is it? Okay, it's alright. Yeah. So like some of the palettes are unconventional, but some of them we kind of had to rein in. There were some that we really liked. Because a lot of these I didn't have the detail images to reference, so it went with like the hero image, but you got into the details and it was like entirely different colors. So this shit just didn't go. So I had to do another pass. I had to do multiple fucking passes on these. But I think it turned out. I mean, it's a good balance. It's not too crazy. And these also, like, we went back and forth on these being videos. It was funny, like, I think on my Twitter post, uh-oh. Am I dropping frames? Is it kind of funky right now? Hopefully it's not. Usually my internet's pretty good here. Seems good? Alright, sweet. Sweet. I think what I posted, where did I post it? Oh, it's this. Oh, no, it's almost ready. Details. I think it's this video. I think I accidentally recorded it before we switched, because we switched from videos to images. Oh, man. Like a couple of days ago. I never saw the performance hitches, but for him on his computer, he always had lag. Where did I post that? could have sworn it was this. But yeah, so they were supposed to be videos, but that was always the thinking on my part. My belief is like this doesn't really show a lot as a developer because Ari's like bread and butter and his differentiator is like he is just like the performance he gets and like the motion he executes is just that's like what's crazy to him and or about him. And so that isn't as much coming through, which I think is definitely a bummer, but he also wasn't about to have a non-performance site. So that's where like this visit site was never really supposed to be like that important, but I think it became more important when we went to images. And I kind of talked about maybe like redoing the visual language to be closer to this to drive more attention to it, but we kind of settled on like if you inherit this visual language, it's kind of confusing that a link out is then so similar to these sort of like key navigational elements within the site. So, because like if you go to this site, like the shit he does on here is just crazy. So, yeah, there's different view modes. Yeah, if you haven't checked out this site, it's another RE creation. What inspired your design decisions? Just LSD, really? Yeah, you know, pretty much. A light dusting of LSD and the old coffee, just kind of ideas start flowing a little bit better. No, it's no LSD for me, although Tyler, I know you've got he's been talking about it. Or if I'm putting you on blast right now, Tyler. I'm definitely not opposed to it. I've heard very interesting things about it in small doses. And for me, doing weed edibles, like, I don't know. For me, it's better than drinking. I think it's better for me. I don't have a hangover the next morning. And it's so cliche to say, and I don't want to be advocating the use of drugs. Maybe I am. But like just it rewires your thinking. It's cliche because I think it's true. Like there's definitive truth of like what I come up with after having one. It's not always good. It is bad sometimes, but it's different at least. So I'll just unlock some different ways of thinking that aren't typically there. And for me, who's trying to get out of like a rut of doing the same shit all the time, it's very beneficial, I would say. Yeah, I'm kind of getting caught up on this. I do want to find the. Oh, see, I went like real dumb. This shit is terrible. I mean, it's not. It's not terrible, but it's not great. It's not what we're looking for. Yeah, getting into like stupid details, but like different transition effects, potentially about pages for these. Yeah, the about page was something that shifted a lot. I had thought it might be something a bit more extensive. I mean, outside of this really shitty type, like some of the stuff is starting to feel nice. And this is like, I was actually adding a blur on some of this text. Why is it not? Usually, oh, that's why. Wrong document. Yeah, so like 1 pixel blurs. That's kind of been my thing that I want to do with my site, but yeah, where's the? I want to find like the deep end I went off of. I'm gonna turn off. I don't know what's on this real fast. Oh, there's no audio on this. Why is my audio still on? Yeah. Here. Okay, this should be back on. Actually a video. I meant to like document more of the process, but I never did. It's kind of a bummer. So we'll go desktop streaming. So this is like the grid view that we had looked at. I think he posted about it and it being something that we wanted to do. And I really liked it. I thought it was like a really nice way to browse everything, especially without any context. Like the way that there is really no context for some of these individual tiles, but they're really like the featured images. So it was kind of a nice thing. Like he actually came up with this transition, and I came up with the grid, basically those two layouts, and he came up with transitions between it. Which, I mean, if you want an example of how his brain works, like he's able to kind of make these leaps between things in a way that's, again, performant and creative. And this also followed the same sort of like wave aesthetic, I guess. So, yeah, it was a bummer, and then we had to kill it. We went back and forth on that a lot. Believe it's just a performance thing at the end of the day. So, might come back in another form. Who knows? I don't know what this one is yet. I haven't seen this. Same thing. Oh, so it's the transitions between. So this is like the detail he gets into of like the animation out of like how it pushes all of the other ones off ahead of time. I think it was actually like that's part of the reason why we didn't go with it too, is like he didn't really like the transitions between it as much. Like I think the transition in works where it's all like kind of collapsing in. And like how he's doing this to like an organic grid, super wild to me. So yeah, let's see. Let me see if I can go back to sketch. Psilocybin is like a breakthrough therapy or something now with the FDA. I've been hearing that, and like I've been hearing that before. I can't remember where I heard it. You hear it on the internet. It's got to be true. No, there's like people doing all sorts of interesting like guided microdosing and how it was curing addictions. It was like helping people process trauma, quit smoking. Really, really fucking fascinating how it's being used. Sorry, I don't know if this is. It's not it. But yeah, I'm all for, a little medicinal help here and there. Never hurt anybody. You have like 5 or 6 hours where you know you don't have to be responsible. Yeah, so I think I found it. This is it. So it was the about page, or I just went a little too hard in the paint. Oh, where is it? It's not Capture One. I have a Capture One title of the screen share in a Lightroom scene about to show sketch. Yeah, about page. There was, and so he had told me like he wants something simple. And I think what's interesting to this is like there's kind of like a linear progression to where it ended up. I think there's not a couple. Really nice to see your explorations and like progress towards the final piece, and you never really get to this stuff, so it's interesting. I never really get to see this stuff. Yeah, I think there might be something useful in it for other people. I don't know. That's my just kind of, I just had people ask about it, so that was my cue that like maybe some people are interested. I've always held the belief of like I don't know, like my shit's like not that great. And so if people ask for it, I'm still like tepid or like, yeah, like I don't know. But if people find it valuable, like I'm all for it. Like I'll put myself out there and kind of. I've gotten past like the discomfort of showing like shit work. I think that's a large part of the process. So I've made peace with it entirely. Um, so I'm glad that like if you're getting some out of this, like my discomfort is not for nothing. But yeah, starting with like the offset masking. So it's like, I know like the idea was like maybe we just do some like simple text over it. And this is using some of, like it's one of the project images. So Ari doesn't have a lot of pictures of himself either. He doesn't like being in front of the camera either. Or like being at the forefront. He'd rather do something like artistic and cryptic. And I think his previous portfolio images of himself was like a tree or like a brush. No, I don't know what the right. It's like a small tree up against a wall. And I still don't understand it. Ari, oh, I think it's like 4 in the morning where Ari is. 3:08. He's probably just going to bed. Fucking lunatic. But it was just like, I don't know, like we probably can't rely on images. So that kind of came later. I think actually the image is in here. Yeah, this fucking thing. Cracks me up. How do I reset all of it? Original size. 100%. Yeah, this image. I mean, it's not terrible. It's a little like, it's like palm trees against the wall. But that's like, that's this thing. It's all good, man. Teach their own. So like that's what we're gonna use. Like maybe like leading with it. But I thought also project images. Like it doesn't have to be him. So I was looking at like different grids. Kind of got really boring, predictable. This just feels cluttered. So then it's just like struggling, like getting pissed off at this point of like, why is everything sucking so bad? It still all sucks. It's like simple grid. This is like, okay, kind of getting interesting, but still kind of messy. Messing with larger type. Then he said no scroll. So then that got rid of a lot of this. That was later. There's a lot of scroll options. Oh, it's cropped. Can't see. Oh, wait, it's not updating. Oh, no way. Is it frozen? Let me try. It's not updating. Capture. Change this, see if it works. Because it's showing up properly in the preview, but not being translated to the stream. If I go folio, it's still not updating. Try updating this one. Sorry, this is like the perils of major noob streamer. Okay, I'm just gonna do desktop streaming again. That's annoying. Sorry. Thank you for saying something. Like, definitely keep me honest. Like, if something's not being shown, let me know. Damn. Let's see. I got everything out of the way. Yeah. Desktop streaming. Okay, so this is what you should have been seeing, but we're not. So this is like the linear progression of the About page. Yeah, it's still got some old fragments still in view, really weird. Yeah. Streamlabs, like, it's really buggy, really annoying. And for like very core functionality, which is strange that they just kind of let it slide. Oh, I can catch up on some stuff. So modest. You caught me on a good day, I guess. I don't know. I try to be like I don't. I've been conditioned to think. I feel like I don't know. I'm not gonna put it on other people. Other people have leveraged my lack of self confidence for their benefit. But I've also benefited from it greatly because it's just like, I think that's what my motor is like, I never think I'm really, I don't know, I don't feel like I achieve anything where I'm getting better or good. Like, there's always things that can be better, and I think that's all I'll gravitate towards. Just kind of how I am. It's not like a pity party and I like feel bad for me. I've got this inferiority complex. Like, I think I owe so much of it. Like, sure, it probably helps some other people too, but it's been kind of what has driven me to just keep going. So this is what I was talking about, but you could not see at the time. It's like the image offset, mask to text. Oh, I didn't get. This is where I'm at. I'm like all over the place. Oh, Andy, you called it out. Sorry, I didn't see that. Funky going on. Yeah, well, hopefully it looks better on my stream. So, say a couple Hail Marys or however that shit works. Yeah, so you didn't even see the plant image. It's great. Fuck. Yeah, so this is like the image he's used to represent himself. It's really funny, to me at least. So not having like a great image, like this is a project image that we can't use. How you can leverage project images in a way that's not like, I don't know. He works with a lot of great clients, so you're leveraging that as like an asset. These are the ones I said just all sucked, and I started just getting mad because they're all really boring and messy in different ways. And these are very quick, just kind of like, I want to flip the hierarchy a little bit. I want to try different layouts. I want to try something that's more like a grid, kind of tightly packed, something that just sucks. I don't know. I don't have good excuses for any of this. This is part of the design process for me, is just spitting out like hours of just shit. That's the best I can do to explain it. And like, I've always been the guy who's like, I hated having a desk where people could walk behind and watch what I was doing, because I was too fucking embarrassed of like, I'd like pick times between when people were walking around. Like, I had this idea in my head. Like, I don't know if it's really any good. I don't want really people to know that I'm doing this. So I just like, if I was like depending on, like, I switched a lot of jobs, and like some of the times like there'd be like in middle aisle and I'd be in like the main aisle, so everyone was walking by. So like I'd wait till like later hours, or I'd just try and time it during lunch to stay a couple minutes later and just like do like something that's like tucked off into the corner, like oh fuck, that's bad, let me delete that super quick. I feel like some designers might be able to relate to that. Like, it's like you want to try stuff, but at the same time, like, if you're working with people you respect and like you want to kind of like, you get like, for me, I got pushed by a lot of people, and so I was just like terrified of like a misstep, and probably not healthy. I should, like, now I feel better. Like, I'll design stuff on stream and most of it'll probably suck. Even late in the process with this project, a lot of this stuff was not good in hindsight. But it's part of the like working through ideas and like, okay, that didn't work, but maybe this little component of it like this is what I want to latch onto. Let me evolve that into something else that then blended with like maybe some idea that's over here. But yeah, it's, I don't know. Now that I'm like working from home and I think everyone's working from home, I like it's a little easier to just like try shit and just get away with it. It's a safe space. Like I'll just lock the door and fucking no one will get in. I don't see this shit. Oh, and like that was a big trepidation. Like a thing for me, like doing this stream was, it's like man, I'm personally like being a wannabe photographer. Like I've always said, I'm better behind the lens, and here I am like putting myself in front of it. That's uncomfortable. Am I gonna really want to show people like not having that fundamental confidence? Hold on, gotta close this. Yeah, not having that confidence of like my explorations being any good, and like there's sometimes like I'll struggle with something for days, weeks, months, and like it's always shit, and like am I gonna put myself out there as like, I think some people have some respect for me at some degree, and I'm just gonna shit all over it by like, it's like damn, he was like fucking around with like these crazy colors. It's like yeah, I've made my peace with it, whatever. um I can relate to that, but my shit is definitely shittier. I doubt that, man. Like, I think as like you get more senior, more experienced, you kind of know like the shittiest shit to not fuck around with. But like it's still like I'll still find myself making like very fundamental errors in some of the designs just because I'm moving quickly. But you can't. It's hard to like because I have the liberty of like controlling the stream and like what people say or what I show and how I talk about it. So then I can provide the proper context of like there were some that I was talking about earlier, like the slider. I was like, man, that's a shitty slider. Like I need to explain the fact that like this is representational of a slider. This is a rough thing. Like I'm not saying it's final. So like it's always like walking it back, but yeah. Let me see if I gotta scroll back up. Sorry, I'm reading these all out of order. I'm not used to like having this much interaction, so I'm playing a little catch up. But I'm fucking stoked. Like this is awesome. I'm stoked you guys are here and getting something out of this and not like super annoyed with me by now. But and I promise these streams will get better. I think compared to the first ones, I'm already better. I'm still gonna give like long random answers and get distracted, but that's just kind of package deal. It's positive and negative drives you always to want to improve, but you can get down a bit sometimes. Like, why does my work always suck? Yeah, 1000%. I've gone through that more recently with Instagram. With all my photos, like I used to get crazy engagement, and I never really thought. I thought they were decent, but I was blown away by the reception of it, and then for whatever reason, I have my own theories about Instagram wanting money for ads. Like they give you a ton of exposure and then take it away, and then want you to pay for ads to get it back. And so this lack of like feedback that I got used to became like I started questioning everything. Like, am I just really not that good? Like, what the fuck happened? Which is like a momentary thing, and like I just realized like it's that specific case is probably exterior forces at play, or maybe not. Maybe I just kind of outwore my welcome, but I don't know. I'm just like I don't know. I'm having fun with this independent route, and if I put out shitty work, then it's all on me. And but like me doing it, like this is what I'm having fun doing. So if it ends up being shit, like maybe I'll lose it at some point. But yeah, like so that was going back to the like inferiority complex type of thing. Yeah, it's important to acknowledge your wins along the way, I would say. Um, it's really easy to just like kind of focus on what's next, but like taking time to acknowledge like what you've done, I think is important. Um, I never had that. I think I told a story about it before about one of my projects like not even acknowledging the fact that it did anything. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. I feel like that's too negative. And this is not going to be a negative stream. I swear. But yeah, it's a positive negative for sure. Can you show us your setup someday? Have you shown it in past streams? So what sort of setup specifically? Like my workspace where I work? I don't think I've shown anything in the past because my camera is fixed on top of my screen and I don't know what I can do to... I mean, you can see... Kind of clean. It's kind of... It is clean. But I, like... This thing's magnetically attached to here, so I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, the cable's not long. You can see... Got my iPad, Stream Deck. Got the Mac Pro with all the fucking Wacom cables because the Bluetooth doesn't work. That's part of my desk. But like literally the cable for the camera is like specifically to the length, so it just goes from the port on the back of the XDR display to the top and not much more. So I can't like, I don't have a lot of wiggle room to move it around. But if there's anything you want to see or want to learn about, definitely let me know. I'm happy to accommodate. And, yeah, I mean, this is for you guys. I mean, I keep saying it, I do get a lot of benefit out of talking this stuff out. It's really fascinating. And also hearing like other people's perspectives, like, I don't know, talking with Ari about this too, about like the pandemic creating a motivation to like get out and like connect with other people again. Like I'm very introverted and I spend a lot of time at home, and I know this doesn't really substitute human interaction, but it's like it's a step there. And I think what's cool is like it's a lot of people who are within the industry, and I don't think there's a lot of people in our industry doing shit like this. Maybe it's for a good reason, I don't know. They don't want to end up like rambling on like an idiot like some people. But I don't know, I'm having a good time with this shit. Yo, John, this collab with Ari is one of the dopest sites I've seen. That's too kind, man. I appreciate it. I've been following you both for a while, and this is fucking ace, next level stuff, man. Really appreciate it, Sal. Really, really, really far too kind, man. I think Ari is the key to all of this. Like, I think I have like ideas for this kind of stuff, but he's the only one that can really unlock it and make it possible. So yeah, I feel very fortunate to have linked up with him and doing these projects. So stoked you like it. We weren't totally sure what we were looking at by the end. And like we legitimately didn't know what the response was going to be. So hearing that is awesome. So I really appreciate it. As someone with not a huge amount of professional experience yet, it's something that I know stops you from trying things, but I can't get over if I don't want people to see my shit. Yeah. I mean, it's at a certain point, it helps to just let go. And I know that's a lot easier said than done. It took me a long time. I think it's a process thing. Like you slowly get more comfortable with it. I don't know if it's a function of getting older where you just stop caring about certain things. Like, I'm well on my way to being like the old salty man. Like I'm on the stream, like shaking my fist at the fucking skateboarders outside. Like, I don't know. I'm not quite like, I don't know. Because some of the crazy shit you see old people do because they just give no fucks anymore. But I'm on my way there. So it's a process, man. Just finished watching Broken Images. So comforting watching someone else struggle with the sluggish Lightroom. Yeah. Misery loves company, man. Lightroom is an equal opportunity offender. If that makes sense. Yeah, it's fucking wild to me. I was locking up multiple times in that stream, and I don't know. I've had it, and sometimes with Lightroom, like Capture One's so much better, but I just can't do it. I'm in that precarious situation of depending on Adobe for anything. Like, I'm really hoping they get their shit together and understand the importance of performance, even if it means like rewriting your core algorithms or whatever the fuck it is on how it's computing it. Like, yeah, it's not adding new features, but it's making the existing ones that are really good usable. But I'm not going to go on the PM rant. I always do, about how PMs ruin everything, but that's save it for another day. Could you go into more detail on why you think these explorations are shit? Like, I don't think they're that bad. I feel kind of subjective, make me think of clients nitpicking visual design. I think for just what my expectations are, I think if going back to some of the boards and like, I want my work to coexist with this stuff. And it's kind of strange, but for me, I feel there's a discernible gap between my work and this. Like, I don't think my work's bad, but it's not being reshared to the level this stuff is. There's not that polish to it. There's not that, I don't know what it is. I mean, from some of this stuff, it's really not too far off, but this feels like a level elevated above mine, and I don't understand. So I feel pressure. I put pressure on myself to try and get to this point, and looking at some of these, like, it's just not it. And you could argue, I mean, I could argue that I'm trying to do it within the fixed browser space. I'm trying to convey a lot of things. My hands are kind of tied with what I can do. I can't be so like aggressive with spacing. I can't have like this long scrolling thing. These are like kind of self-imposed limitations, but for me, like, this is what I'm trying to hit, and I just don't feel like any of these are there. It's all too compact. The grid's too predictable to me. Again, like, they're not. I can be a little dramatic. I'll be the first to admit that. There's probably some people laughing if they ever heard that. Like, it's not something I could like ship out and I'd be like totally ashamed of, but I'm not excited about it. And I think with this being the first collaboration with Ari, like, I've been watching Ari's work for a long time. I've watched the stuff because Ben Mingo and I worked together for a little bit. I've always known Ben's work. Like, his shit's just on another level. So it's like I'm working with Ari in the place of fucking Ben Mingo. Like, I think Ben has a level of polish that I don't. I just flat out don't think it's there. It's different. I don't think it's as polished. There's a few people like him, and there's like probably like 3 or 4 people who they'll do the same thing, but it's better. Always better. I don't know what it is. I can't quantify it. There's about 4 people I've worked with who stick out. There's 3 definitively I can name. But yeah, like, just they'll do the same thing, but it's just better. Like, it's frustrating for me, like, trying to be like my competitive side, my like, I don't know. It's very interesting, and it's probably partially built up in my head, but I think there's some true fact to the like. I think Ben's a much better designer. Facts. So me trying to live up to that and like seeing this kind of stuff, I'm like, man, this is this is not it. Like, I think I dragged something off the grid or something, like that's not supposed to be off. And these are all like quick iterations, so I'll just find things that I just don't like just predictable. Again, not bad, conveys all the information, clean, legible, but it kind of factors into the like unwinding I'm trying to do from e-commerce, where like this is a very functional, like it's systemized, it's up on the grid, it's easy to understand, but is it interesting? This is, again, like going back to the portfolio mentality, like this is, like, let's fucking push it. And is this pushing it? I don't think so. And that's where, like, you see some interesting stuff going on here. Whether it's all good or not. Like, just weird, like, flat out weird color palettes. Yeah, so it's like self-imposed pressure. I'm actually rather happy with how this turned out. A couple different versions. We landed on the one we did out of practicality, but yeah. So that's where like I see those, and again, not bad, but not like not Ari portfolio worthy, if you ask me. Computer and home. Yeah, I mean, definitely computer. I'm trying to figure out how I could do home. I mean, I live in it's a one-bedroom apartment. It's not the biggest, but I think, I mean, some of the more interesting stuff's probably around my computer. Like, I have the media cabinet where my network storage is and all my charging, all my router and that shit. It's all in like this media cabinet that I have a fan control. And I don't know, all the backup stuff, like I've told my brother, like, so I can't set up my own backup the way he did. Like all the redundancies, all of like the RAID configurations, like tentative knowledge, but not enough. But yeah, I could definitely get into that. Dude, your work is awesome. Thank you, Pablo. Far, far too kind. Do you share it with someone at all for feedback, like people you trust, or you just don't like sharing and it's about what you like? That's a very good question. You know, I've always kind of just held it on my own, and I haven't, unless I have to, I haven't really shared it. Largely because, I don't know, I just don't have a relationship with anyone in the creative world who I just lob ideas back and forth to. For various reasons, like a lot of my good friends who've come out of working together, like they're in different worlds. Like probably arguably one of my best friends is a motion animation guy at Google. So if I need like motion and I want to talk to him, I'll definitely send him stuff. But would I send him web layouts like this? Probably not. And for whatever reason, like people at past jobs, like I just haven't kept in contact with, where I would just like voluntarily just lob stuff over to them. I don't know. I think it'd be a great bit of feedback. I do send stuff to. I'll have my girlfriend look at stuff. That's probably one of my best options. That's always my litmus test. Like I don't always send stuff to my mom. I don't send my mom comps, but I'll just have my girlfriend come over and just do some quick usability tests. And it's usually function or like whether she just likes something. She's a creative strategist, but she has a very creative eye. So I trust her feedback on whether things feel right or not. But like technically getting into like the nuts and bolts of it, she's not trained to be a designer. She's more like a strategic creative director who has an eye for creative. So I probably should get someone like that. But yeah, I don't currently have someone. I think streaming, etc. isn't a big thing because so much of the work done is NDA or whatever, stops people from having stuff to share. Yeah, that's like, yeah, that's kind of the bummer of a lot of that stuff. Um, and that's where I'm trying to find new partnerships now, where it's probably not the highest paid stuff, but it's brands I want to be aligned with, either from ones I know and respect or from ones that um, fit. Like I try and think of. It's funny, and I don't know. Like JW.S Studio is, I refer to it as JW.S, and I have this thing where I don't really like it, but I'm trying to create a brand out of it, and thinking about strategic partnerships, and like, say what you will about the navigation being collabs, like it's kind of cringe worthy at times to think about, but I'm literally trying to think of a brand myself as like a brand that collaborates with other people. I create products. I like it is a genuine collaboration. Um, and having those as pieces that I can share, like maybe if I'm not getting paid as much, it's something I can show process on. I can show extensively, like everything I worked on, and I think that provides me a lot of value now as an independent. Um, yeah, again, maybe it doesn't pay that well, but might serve different purposes. Congrats to you and Ari on the website. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Far too kind. Yeah, all this like positive feedback, like it's very very flattering. I do appreciate it. Let's see. Hopefully, I'll get there as I learn more experience and get to learn from dope people. Yeah, like I owe so much to the people I've worked with or worked under. I think is probably um, the best way I could put that. Like working for Anton, I think is probably the biggest influence on me in my career. Like he's a fucking machine. So talented, and I don't know, and just thoughtful with everything. And I think that has, like, I went from like flash type websites which had like very little structure needed to marketing sites, and then went to e-commerce, and I think it was on like Sports Illustrated, which, God, I'm so embarrassed to be a part of that project, but learned a lot. And yeah, he just like helped form a ton of ideas. So yeah, if you get the chance to work with someone good, like use them as motivation and like pick their brain. Super helpful. I'm sure John has so many amazing projects that he just can't show. Probably the 5 terabyte of sketch files. I don't know if it's that much. I don't. Oh, I'm on desktop streaming. I mean, there could be happy accidents that happen on stream some days, or it's just a little clip. Maybe I'm saying too much, incriminating myself right now, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff. It's just, it would be nice. A lot of the Apple stuff, again, but that's like, I still like the people at Apple. I still want to be able to work with the people at Apple. So I think that would be the old shit and where you're eating type thing. Like short-term gains for long-term pain. I have a lot of like motion stuff too I need to bring out. I do a lot of like After Effects type shit. I was trying to get that on my website last night, but I didn't get back to it because it turned into a mess. Process work, so I don't think anyone expects super polished designs, and I feel and the final work is super polished, so it's all good. Also now I'm interested in Ben Mingo's process work and how he decides what is good and bad. Yeah, good luck with that. Like, I've never heard much about Ben's process. I actually know nothing about it. I've never worked with him on the side. Super good dude. Immensely talented, but I couldn't tell you the first thing about how he gets to where he does. Never really came up conversation. I don't know why. You should definitely make a Discord server. There's definitely not a good design community out there to share your work. Explore other designs. Oh, I think I missed a part. Sorry, that was the first message. Oh yeah, process. Or not super polished. Yeah, it's always helps to be able to like speak to it and say like that's process. Don't look too closely. And it doesn't always happen, but I think I have the luxury on this, and that's kind of why I feel comfortable ultimately. And then the comment about the Discord, I do have one. I'm trying to figure out how I do it. I actually have 2 Discord channels, and I'm trying to, basically figure out permissions. Like I don't know how managing Discords really work. I need to dive into it. Because I think there's a couple people in there who, it's like there for me to collaborate and for us to kind of all talk. But I don't know how like visibility and permissions work, because some of them might not want to be in like a broader community. I'm not saying anyone specifically, but it's like if an Ash Thorpe shows up in there, like I don't know what's to stop people from pinging him if he just wants to talk. And again, this is not something he said. He's not joined any Discords. Like hypothetical. Like I think if he joined my Discord, I'd probably bug the shit out of him all the time. But yeah, I do want to set that up. So if anyone has any like insights of how that works, because there is, let me go Chrome browsing for a second. I'll fire up Discord. Because I used to have a Slack and I dropped it. And then I have like the no ISO. The whole like secondary idea with no ISO was like unifying creatives to just talk. And I've gone back and forth on whether that should be like a managed community and like invite only, and keep it more senior level, or whether it's something that can coexist where there can be like a senior level area, but then have it like where people of all levels can kind of communicate. That's something I'm figuring out. And I've seen what unmanaged creative communities turn into. I've been on a couple Slack channels that I would call toxic, and I don't want to facilitate that. I don't want to spend all my time like moderating a toxic community. So I just think I need to figure it out. But I'm really excited to hear that there's interest in it. I think if that's something that would be valuable, I'll put some time into figuring out like how this shit works. Because basically like I was frustrated with Slack and like having to invite all these people to the channels, which I think you still have to do with Discord. Like it's pitiful how little I know about it. But I created a bunch of different channels. It was like a collaboration channel, feedback channel, opportunities, like a photo exclusive channel, design, music, 3D and motion development, classifieds. So I just started like having random ideas of what people might find useful to talk about. But yeah, I will definitely think about that. Discord is the place to go. Just get people to sign up via email. Yeah, you know what? Fuck it, let's just go for it. Can I just send out? Let's see. Let me get caught up. Sorry. Also on the Discord server, everything is either very expensive or very secretive in design industry. I don't know why it has to be that way. All the mood boards doesn't help me as a design so subjective and abstract. Yeah, there's like interesting things with like showing process stuff like this, especially with bigger companies. Like I'm thinking explicitly like with Apple, you can never share anything that doesn't go live because there's a risk like that comp isn't validated against legal. It's not it like products shift all the time. So there may be something that reveals a bit of strategy and like I don't want to be the one who's leaking strategy. like, like Apple's like upcoming strategy because like I've seen it. I've seen like a guy I worked with post a couple comps and it showed up in like a news article about. I don't think he ever got in trouble because it wasn't anything crazy. It just showed like they took his ideations as like this is what Apple's thinking about, which is a very kind of inaccurate way of going about it. Like if you know our direction works, like we'll come up with all kinds of crazy shit and none of it really means anything. But yeah, seeing mood boards, I agree. Like what's on my screen right now, I think there's value to it at some degrees, but like, is it really going to help you? Like, I can't give you guidance on how to mood board. And even if I could, I don't know what good that would ultimately do. I think there might be value in how to like extract elements from it, and how to like iterate on it, but that is best shown through process, which I'm trying to do like self-initiated personal brand type stuff, whether that's like the photo book or if it's some of the different digital assets I have for myself. Maybe seeing the process for that starting from scratch would be good instead of me just kind of like talking through past designs. But it's like this upcoming one I almost want to do like pre-recorded streams where I just talk through what I'm doing, but then it doesn't come out until after the project launches. Which I kind of missed the boat on this one because a lot of it's pretty far, but yeah, something to think about. Is making it easier for people trying to start community servers. I do know you can disable things like everyone and talk to speech. That's good to know, Kevin. Yeah, there's. I've been a part of a couple Discord communities. I think it's one of the biggest. It's like Kenny Beats. I think it's like Don't Overthink Shit. Yeah, it's like Don't Overthink Shit, and it's a massive community, and like that's kind of where I started seeing the value in it. Of like, it's wild, like the amount of like community that gets built around these different sections of his site, and how, or his Discord channel, and how that's kind of grown. And I'd love to do that. Yeah, I want to make sure it's not toxic. Like it's serving a good purpose, but at the same time, not something I have to kind of always oversee. One thing you can't stop people from seeing who's in your Discord if it's like a access by everyone chat. That person can disable messages from people they aren't friends with, etc. That's kind of what I was wondering, like if there's certain people who are there for like direct communication with someone else, like if they can just filter out broader things, or if they want to just be involved or accessible, they can do that. So I figured they had rules like that, but it's good to know that that's for sure there. Like a hidden group, and not able to see or seen in chat in general. If they want that sort of thing, make a completely new server for your YouTube audience and various channels like photography, design, etc. Just provide a link to join the Discord and description with other links. Sounds like someone blasted the garage that's underneath me. I mean, I'm just skittish. I don't know. Yeah, I wonder if I because I actually do have two servers. I have like a JW.S server and I have a no ISO server, and I'm trying to think which one makes sense. Probably shift. I just open invites to no ISO. That's the one I always thought was going to be like broader collaboration, so that makes sense. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just double check permissions and kind of just let a couple people know who have joined the channel that I'm going to open it up. Yeah, I mean, Ari's in there. I don't know, Ari's, I don't know how he is with other people, like if he has time or wants that. I don't know, want him to get mad at me for opening up our personal channel to a bunch of people, but yeah, I'll probably have him join the other one. He can stick around if he wants to. But yeah, I would say probably this coming week I'll make it a priority to send out links. Yeah, that'll be good. So much crazy stuff for Discord servers now. It kind of seems confusing for me now, but a lot of them are really good. Yeah, I think honestly, like I probably want to bring in moderators who know, if you know Discord, because clearly I don't know shit. And apparently I don't even have two-factor authentication on, so I need to resolve that. You can't take any moderation actions until you enable it. So there you go. Yeah, just thinking. But yeah, I think it'll be good. Be careful about just sending out invites if you've already got kind of private chats on there. If there isn't any permission set up on it, anything, people just join and then see anything. Yeah, I think it's all within like direct messaging, so I'm not really worried about that. It's just a couple people with different projects. But yeah, I'll iron all that out. I think that'll be good to get going. And it's awesome to see that there's momentum for something like that. And I think that's kind of where it starts, is like getting people in. We can kind of like iron out the details of like, all right, this is not quite right. We need channels for XYZ. Like, I'm amenable to it. The whole no ISO thing was like communication and collaboration, knowledge sharing, feedback, and just kind of like a no bullshit type thing. Like, I hope you kind of probably get a sense of who I am as a person, but like, I'm pretty sensitive to just like bullshit. I really have limited capacity for it. Like, people who are just like toxic trolls, like, you probably won't last long in the channel. And I don't think anyone here is that, but I think it might be some heavy-handed moderation from time to time if people just kind of start wilding out, like getting, I don't know. I've seen it, and it started with so much promise, and it just turned into like a shit show, and like no one showed up, and there was like definitively drama going on in the channel. I was like, I don't join a channel for fucking drama. So, yeah. It's great, just like song design. It'll add a community to the initiative too. Don't make your private server public, make a new server. Yeah, so the problem is what I might have to do is just rename the no ISO server as my personal one, and then the JW.S will become no ISO, and that's got no one in it. I'll just have to remake the channels and some of the other stuff. Yeah, appreciate like kicking around these ideas. I'm like the blind leading the blind, so I think you guys probably know a lot better than I do, for being honest here. Sounds cool though. Something down to join something like that. Yeah, it's just like the whole thinking behind no ISO and like the community aspect of it was just like, if you work in the industry, you get so siloed. And I've been very fortunate to just make connections through really like random connections and kind of luck and spending a lot of time in the industry. It's like being being able to connect with like Ash and connect with Ari, and I don't know, it just sounds like name dropping, but these are people who live outside of my little world of like e-commerce and digital marketing. Like I think there was overlap at one point, but like in my professional world, there's no reason for us to communicate and us to kind of like have a connection to each other. But I think my goal was to kind of bring those people together, and like it was through the lens of passion projects, but I don't think it necessarily has to be. It could just be like kind of what's going on like with the chat and the stream. It's just like knowledge sharing, opinions, questions, like I don't know. I think that's just as valuable for then people to kind of like take it, leave it, or ignore it entirely, but getting more exposure to different perspectives. Because I always thought like I understood why agencies became so specialized. Most of them, at least boutique agencies. I think there's like the RGAs and like the traditional shops that are a bit more diverse in like who they employ. So there's crossover between multiple disciplines, but for me, maybe it's my narrow experience. Like I just never got to like connect with anyone on a meaningful level who was outside of interactive design. Like if we contracted like photographers or like 3D artists to make stuff, it was just like it never was really enough to kind of create a connection. So you never really understand their world. It's kind of just like, hey, we need this, we need it quickly, we need it for this amount, and kind of like have back and forth, but it's not anything meaningful to create dialogue. So yeah, I think there's potentially promise for it. I might be the only one who kind of relishes it for that reason, but the idea would be that you can get whatever you want out of it, which I'm all for. I don't like mandating how people do things. As long as it's positive and constructive, like I don't care. It can be like it can and should be critical when it needs to be, but it needs to be constructive. That would be my caveat. Like, yeah, nothing worse than subjective feedback. No good. Twitter is somewhat weirdly a great place to connect with some dope people. It can also get very toxic, so there's that. Yeah, there's some very toxic individuals on Twitter. It's unfortunate, but it is a place where I'm finding like, because I've branched out with a couple people and just stumbled. I don't know how I found their work originally, but I like saw that they were just kind of like, they looked like masters in their field, and they start liking stuff that's in their field. So I get deeper entrenched within that, and then one of them goes and finds something else that they like that's outside of their field. So I'm following a bunch of like programmatic artists, a bunch of like 3D artists, some cinematographers, some photographers. So I think Twitter like has, honestly, like of all the networks, I think Twitter is the most promise right now. If you can bob and weave all the toxicity, which is kind of have to, like, I do a lot of proactive muting. There's a lot of like I used to hold people accountable for liking toxic tweets and putting it in my tweet, so then I would just block them both. But I'm trying to like give people a pass. I don't know. Can't take that shit too seriously. Sounds dope. Yeah. Oh, what's going on, Lewis? How you doing, man? Thanks for popping in, man. But yeah, I'm stoked you like that idea. It could be promising. I don't know. It could turn toxic, but there's only one way to find out. And, yeah, it's like the one part I was struggling with. The easiest way to mitigate toxicity is to create accountability, and I didn't know if that was through like invite only, or like you had to basically vouch for this person. Like whoever you have unlimited invites, but just you got to vouch for them. If they create bullshit, like it comes right back to you. Like don't bring bullshit in. That might be too much. I don't know. I don't want people to be like worrying about who they're bringing in and feeling like they're on eggshells. Like it's not that. It's just like once toxicity kind of takes off, like it's contagious and it can run away. So um, yeah, I think there's a way we could do it. I think with all the management tools like you guys are talking about, and from what I've seen of like yeah, the Kenny Beats Discord and how he's able to manage, I think it's something like 20,000 people, and apparently it's not a total shit show. So um, yeah, I'm hoping to get that done this week. Design assignment to join the server? Absolutely, man. Not paying. So I need to use my logo and no. I love how people just like scrape ideas from all these design assignments in the name of an application. Um, yeah. At least like some people pay for those, which is great. And someone's going wild downstairs. Um, Discord would be cool. Yeah, I'm stoked you're into it, man. I need to figure out the best way. Probably Twitter is probably where I'll try and push that out. I'll definitely on one of these streams coming up. I'm working on a schedule. Like, so I think every Sunday or something, I'll post a schedule of what I can do. Ideal world, I can do this 5 days a week. Weekends are probably going to be hit or miss, like might just pop on. But yeah, having that kind of set, but then in some of those start like pushing out the Discord channel, probably to live stream first. Kind of do it here, like the people who are here and kind of helping set it up. Like I want you guys to kind of come in first, and we can kind of shape things a little bit, and then open it up and kind of see what happens. So, yeah, I think getting help with Discord permissions and stuff. Happy to answer some questions. Set up stuff a couple of times. Yeah, appreciate it, Andy. I might hit you up and take you up on that offer. I have to imagine it's doable. It just takes a little bit of commitment on my part to dive in and kind of understand the rules of it. It can't be that hard. I think I'm just like ignorant because I haven't spent the time doing it. But yeah, this week. Let's aim for, fuck, I'll create some accountability for myself. Friday? Before Friday. I just have some other stuff with this upcoming project. The schedule. Yeah, I can make that work. Yeah, it's not that hard. You're just unaware of it. Yeah. Well, that's a that greatly like surmises like 3/4 of my life. Everything seems really hard. I just don't know the fact that it's easy. Yeah, I think the biggest thing, honestly, is going to be like, I did spend a lot of time creating all these channels. I almost want to tell everyone to just like move to a different channel who's in there who wants to. I might just do that. Because I spent a lot of time like I think I made like a general rules document, like all the messages, but I never looked into permissions for some reason. So yeah, boom, before Friday. We're doing it. Yeah, it'll be fun just to like converse with people on a regular basis to kind of just, I mean, these streams are great, but I mean, there's the harsh reality of like timing alignment with like what's going on in my life, what's going on in your guys' life, the overlap there. The VODs are kind of like the reality. I think most people experience the stream, but if there's like a Discord to kind of coincide with it, I think that'd be pretty sweet to kind of just background stuff. It can help inform what goes on in the stream. You guys can just get a lot of utility out of it, hopefully. So yeah, before Friday, I'm gonna put that in. It's getting real official. It's going in things. I'll do it for tomorrow. Discord permissions. Doesn't get any more official in my life. There's been some good talks on a couple of Slacks, but it's kind of far and few between. Yeah, that's my experience. Definite value, and like you just wish it would kind of like exist in that world a bit more, but it tends to just deviate into Twitter, like a more focused Twitter and more real-time Twitter. But I think we can do our best to kind of keep that from happening. So yeah, stoked you guys are into it. I mean, this has always been like a phase 2 of no ISO. Or whatever. I don't even know if that's a great name. I thought it was clever one night, and it seems like a mouthful, but whatever. In for a penny, in for a pound, so let's fucking go. I think that's about it at this point. I've been going for, wow, just shy of 4 hours. No, that's a generous. I'm rounding up a lot. See you soon for the number 6 is Ari's new site thread. I was so confused. Oh, yeah. I actually don't know what he's talking about for number 6. I don't remember the context of that tweet. I mean, he does it every year. I don't know if he still wants to do one with me. I think he can have the pick of whoever the fuck he wants at this point. So. I haven't started working on it. Maybe he knows something I don't know. But I mean, he's always up to something. But he'll have a much better one next year. I can promise you that. If you look at like his past years, like his progression's just, it's constant and it's crazy, and he doesn't sleep a lot. So, yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it. I gotta eat, do life things. But damn, I pulled up the metrics, and I mean, I think there's been a lot of people here, which is a lot more than usual, which is awesome. So appreciate everyone who came through. A lot of great dialogue. I mean, I love just kind of chatting about talking shop and all that shit. So yeah, good shit, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm sticking to my word. I'll be here. Who knows? Maybe I'll have Discord figured out by then, but let's see. And on the point of this site, I think I'm not going to say too much, but there might be another stream potentially about this, about more detail than I can talk about. So probably doesn't leave too much to the imagination, but you know, I don't know when, if, how, but we'll see. But yeah, thank you everyone, and I don't know what time tomorrow. It's my day. I love it. Open my calendar and there's nothing there tomorrow. Maybe I'll do like the same time. I'll try and do like midday. Fuck it, I'll just do this. I'll aim for the same time. I'll try and schedule the stream. I don't think notifications go out when I schedule it. But I will try and figure that out tonight, hopefully. But yeah, thank you again, everyone. And again, like, this isn't the be-all, end-all of this. Anything on the design side comes up you forgot, you wanted to ask, of course, you can always go back to it. I was just kind of waiting for this stream to talk about it. So, all right. I'll be back tomorrow. See you guys.